came for the darkest regions, wrapped in a cloak of light. Minus the focus heights, I'm trying to get my opals right. Throw my doubts aside, I climb the mountainside. And when I reach the peak, the view I see will not be fly. Feel the pressure, but it's relative to the man I measured. No time for hesitation, finally time to step up. And when you're feeling deep in your bones, in your zone, you're fed up. You're close to the glass ceiling, keep your head up. See your dreams as a goal, that's how I'm seeing mine. Achieve my full potential, let all of the demons pre my shine.
I hang on every word you say. Don't wanna crash and burn or drown you away. I hang on every word you say. Don't wanna crash and burn or drown you away.
Don't wanna drive you. Yes, we will work the blueprint. My philosophy is more than some long talking. It's embodied in the movement. Stepping the gears up, leaving them stuck in the rear. What? I'm moving a million miles an hour. The power is fruit with the fearless. Them gems are serious. I handle my business imperious. Yo, I'm a fireman, some flames for all the deleterious. Sent from the most high and anointed with oils various. And come bring is scariest. Emotion stoic, I'm airing them. Now it's time to roll. I chant the Gideon's chant and keep the most high close to my heart, and then I go.
I hang on every word you say. Don't wanna crash and burn or drown you away. I hang on every word you say. Don't wanna crash and burn or drown you away.
Don't wanna drive you. Don't wanna drive you.
All too familiar with pain, all too familiar with pride. I've been on my knees 6 but gotten up 7 times. It was never even a question of is it gonna be mine. It's not a matter of chance, just a matter of time. I've been watching the clock, 10,000 hours go by. I keep putting in work, the tears are filling my eyes. I swear I've never been tested like this, but this is mine. It's not a matter of chance, just a matter of time. Never look back. If something's standing in my way, I always push back. If something seemed impossible, I never took that. Nah, cause now I know better. Can't stop, won't stop, I won't quit ever.
Deepest waters won't take me. The highest fall won't break me. The blood and sweat is what made me.
I'ma get mine, just a matter of
The
time.
deepest waters won't take me. The highest fall won't break me. The blood and sweat is what made me.
I'ma get mine, just a matter of time.
I'm taking it by the reins, I'm taking it to the sky. I'm never taking a break, I'm only taking what's mine. You say it's taking too long, I'm taking that as a sign. It's not a matter of faith, just a matter of time. Never look back, if something's standing in my way, I always push back. When something seemed impossible, I never took that. Nah, cause now I know better. Can't stop, won't stop, I won't quit ever.
Deepest waters won't take me. The highest fall won't break me. The blood and sweat is what made me.
I'ma get mine, just a matter of
The
time.
deepest waters won't take me. The highest fall won't break me. The blood and sweat is what made me.
I'ma get mine, just a matter of time.
The highest fall won't break me. The highest falling won't break me.
I'ma get mine, just a matter of time.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Countdown to Green, refreshed by Coca-Cola. Thanks so much for spending your Tuesday nights with us. My name's Amy Long. I'm being joined by the usual suspects, Brandon Cattell, Chris Overland, and Michael Guerrilla. How you doing tonight, guys?
Doing pretty good.
Oh man, it's going to be a great show tonight. The playoff field gets set. It's going to be pack racing. It's going to be chaos.
Dude,
and I
it's
live
cut-off
for
night
it.
in America.
Cut off night in America.
All right, I love it. We're going to talk more of that, more scenarios about those playoffs. But tonight, the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series is headed to the virtual Michigan International Speedway, nestled in the scenic Irish Hills of southeastern Michigan, for round 14, the Logitech G Challenge 100. But first, let's recap the action 2 weeks ago that led to a game-changing first-time victory for the driver of the number 10, Graham Bolin, who locked himself into the playoffs at the Glen. Take a look.
Pace car going to dive down to pit road this time. The field in the hands of the number 10 of Graham Bolin as we say, let's go racing from Watkins Glen.
Heavy breaking the highest speed area into the bus stop right here. Who will give?
Going to go too wide into it through the carousel. He is all over the back of your race leader. Wilson gets a touch. And Mitchell DeYoung, an awful opening lap. So Bolin, having seen that, does give up the race lead. Bobby Zelensky, though, stays out. You can see Bobby Zelensky, he's still in that pit box on the right-hand side. Not a problem. for the 10 team to get on through.
If he can pull this off for 17 more laps, this might actually, I think this has to be the most contested road course race we have seen.
Third, and that'll be a move to second for Mitchell DeYoung. He will drive his way through. Zelensky got a little bit loose off of the corner, but I wonder if this is strategic. Mitchell looks high, tries to go for the undercut. They touch, he'll move Bolin out of the way. One shot, two shots, he still hangs on. Mitchell DeYoung on the doorstep, looks high, Bolin to the inside, side by side, last corner they touch. DeYoung is in the tires, and Graham Bolin, an eNASCAR winner at Watkins Glen.
An exciting last lap duel. Bolin held off Mitchell DeYoung. Some colorful lip reading and a sweaty victory lane interview at the end of that race. Here are the driver playoff standings heading into round 14. Chris, I see a tie in here. Your thoughts?
Well, we've got a lot going on here, and I just got to say, Graham Bolin has absolutely demolished this playoff grid. He goes from out of the playoffs up to second in the points. And honestly, we've got so much that can happen, so many scenarios we're going to get into tonight. This playoff grid may look completely different after the end of the night. I'm so excited for these playoffs. And honestly, right now, I was talking to Ray Alfala, who's on the outside sitting in before this race, and he said, you know, there really is no favorite, and I couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I really look at Bob Bryant, Ryan Luza. Bob Bryant currently has the tiebreaker right now. You look at these two guys, they've had great seasons right now, but they just need to be a little bit better if they really want to make the playoffs. If somebody wins tonight who's higher than them in the points in the top 20, they're going to scoot past them. If I'm Bob Bryant, Ryan Luza, I'm worried, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, you look at those guys that barely make it in the top 10 cutoff. You look up towards the front, Mitchell DeYoung. Think if he got that pass done on Graham Bolin in the final corner at Watkins Glen, think about how much easier of a time he would have in that final, getting to that final four had that win been secured. So it's a little bit of now he has to look in the rear view with Graham behind him and what could have been.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at team standings here. Michael, your thoughts here?
My biggest thing is the fact that Stewart Haas Racing is up to that second spot. We talked about them earlier in this season. I think it was the quarter mark and they were barely scratching the top 10. And then a few races later, they're inside the top 10, scratching that top 5, and now they're sitting second in the last race before the regular season ends. So it's been a really good push for them of late between their drivers at Graham Bolin and Dylan Duval.
Yeah, you know, Michael, my biggest thing right now is, for those of you who don't remember, there is a prize bonus for these teams for where they finish in these team standings. That's why we look at this. And also, of course, everybody wants to be a champion of something. But we're finally getting some separation from the top 5 and the rest of the field. You see there, Kligerman Sport, almost a race back from Letard Esports. So it's going to come down to one of these top 5, it seems like. And finally, the cream is rising to the top.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I mean, I really look at 2311 here. They've been at the top of the board all year long. They have Mitchell DeYoung. He's got 2 wins, the most wins out of anybody. But I really look at Keegan Leahy. Keegan Leahy does not have the success that he had last year and years prior. And, you know, we have the playoffs about to start. I'm really looking forward to see what Keegan can do going forward.
Yeah, and every single race makes a big difference. Round 13 at Watkins Glen really shook things up. Chris, it was a battle to the end. Your thoughts on the night?
Yeah, well, you know, my segment, I chose defense wins championships because Graham Bolin had the defensive performance of his life. For those of you who haven't seen the Watkins Glen race and you just saw the recap, go watch the whole thing. It's not like Graham Bolin held off Mitchell and Bobby for a couple laps. From the start of the race to the drop of the checkered flag, Graham Bolin had one of the two on his back bumper hounding him. He performed probably one of the greatest defensive performances I've ever seen in a sports event, period. Because let's be honest, those guys were faster than him, but Graham made the car wide enough. And honestly, if he didn't get that victory, who knows? He might not have made the playoffs, and now he's definitely one of the threats to win it.
Yeah, and Michael, he really upset the rest of the playoff drivers. What do they have left to prove now?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is the fact that Bolin upset the playoff bracket. As Chris mentioned, he upset the playoff bracket while upsetting the road course ringers of Bobby Zielinski and Mitchell DeYoung. But that also set in motion a quote-unquote 2-minute drill final push for the playoffs for Shearburn, Alfala, and Bob Bryant. I mean, these guys, you see them on screen right here, they didn't have great runs at Watkins Glen. You see them on this graphic right here. I mean, you look at Bob Bryant, we talked about him. He's got that very last spot ahead of Ryan Lewis, so he's barely scraping his way in. Chris Shearburn, we'll talk about it later. He needs to do everything right to even have a shot of making the top 10. And then Ray, it's looking grim for him. It's barely anything, so it's going to be really hard for him to get in. But Rams win with that 2-minute clock on.
The mail always shows up, man. I don't know.
Yeah. We threw out some football terminology with defense, but Brandon, let's talk Hail Marys. Who's coming into Michigan needing to throw a Hail Mary?
Thanks, Amy. I'm really looking at your 11th, 12th, 13th place drivers here, especially Nick Ottinger. Nick Ottinger is your defending champion. He still has yet to win this year. And, you know, if I'm Nick Ottinger tonight, I'm throwing the Hail Mary. You have to get the win tonight to advance and defend your championship. If you win a championship in the series, I haven't, obviously. If you win a championship in the series, the next thing you want to do is defend your championship. You want to be like Jimmy Johnson. You want to win 5 in a row. So Nick Ottinger, he needs to throw the Hail Mary tonight, and a couple other drivers do too, if they really want any shot at this championship.
Let's thank the sim racing gods that you don't have a championship.
All right, well, as you mentioned, there's a lot on the line tonight, and one race can change it all. But joining us now on Countdown to Green, NASCAR Cup Series driver, iRacing veteran, and William Byron Esports founder, William Byron. Thanks so much for joining us here on Countdown to Green. How'd you get started with Logitech?
So when I got started with Logitech, it really goes back to how I started sim racing and using the G25 wheel. When I first got started, I was racing on an HP computer, 15-inch, and had a Logitech wheel and pedals, and that was really the start of everything for me. And that's kind of how I got my feel and got used to a race car for the first time. So that was a big deal to me. And then I think over the years got more and more into their product, whether that be keyboards or headsets, when I started using TeamSpeak and Discord, things like that. So yeah, it's just progressed over the years, and kind of as their product has evolved, I think it's just been awesome for sim racing and you know, gaming in general, just to see how their products evolved and so useful.
Yeah, and an amazing partnership that we have with them too. Tonight's race sponsored Logitech G Challenge 100. You were recently involved in the Logitech G Challenge. How'd it go for you?
So I got to say, our team won this year. So, and I finished second in both races. I think that Parker Kligerman won the first race, and then I was pushing him at Daytona, and then Felix Rosenquist on the road course was phenomenal. So yeah, that was fun. I really enjoyed that. Had a good time meeting Lando, talking to him, and getting a chance to do that, you know, pro-am was really neat. So a lot of cool faces and people to talk to in that.
Yeah, how can someone get involved in the Logitech G Challenge?
So I think you just go on Logitech's website, and it's open to anybody. So pretty cool program they have, and really kind of narrows down the best drivers. And I think both my drivers with Logan and Nick both participated, and I enjoyed it. I enjoy anytime you can kind of bring a bunch of different racers together and make it, you know, a fixed kind of thing, and where everyone's running the same car at different tracks. It really takes the specialty out of you know, certain guys, because I feel like, you know, certain guys might be really good in an Indy car or a NASCAR car, like for me. So kind of takes some of that out of play, and you can, you know, kind of have a level playing field.
With the next gen coming up next year, how are you feeling about the new car?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a way different challenge for the teams. I feel like, you know, the technology is very different. The independent rear suspension, the gearbox is way different. Those two things in itself are big changes. I mean, we spend most of our time working with a solid rear axle and working with an H pattern shifter, and that creates its own challenges at a lot of these places. It creates wheel hop. We're just coming off Watkins Glen, and there's a lot of wheel hop induced with the way our transmissions are now, and the way that the rear axle's solid. So the fact that we're going to totally different stuff with that, I think is going to make road course racing a lot different. I think you're going to brake obviously deeper, but in a different fashion too. You're going to get more out of the brakes probably. So it's gonna present different challenges for the drivers. I think that's going to make it fun for the people watching, because it is going to be a different challenge.
Yeah, good fun for the fans. How do you think the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers are going to handle the next gen car?
Well, I think it's going to be an adaptation period for them too. I mean, the setups are probably going to be a lot different. I know, from looking at data and information, the rear springs and the springs that you're allowed to run are a lot different. So I think that's going to present challenges. It's probably going to create a lot of testing for those guys, and they're going to have to, spend time to really dive into the details. And I'm sure certain guys are going to hit on it, and certain guys are going to, struggle. So it's going to be just like normal, but I think in a bigger sense in terms of who figures it out and who doesn't. And honestly, the same for us, on our side. I think it's going to make it to where the gap there is going to be really big once somebody does figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, before we go, we know you're a busy man, but how would you evaluate your 2021 season so far?
Yeah, I think it's been okay. I think, Nick's had a little bit of a struggle, which is, I think there's some of that, you see when, goes out there and wins the championship last year, which is a great thing. And then it's tough to back that up. The expectations are high, and it's really easy to get down, when things don't go as well. So I think that was kind of a little bit to be expected, but Logan's been having a great year, has the win at Atlanta when they actually finished 1-2. So that was a great race for us. And I feel like Logan's got in a good position to get into the playoffs, given the fact that there's been so many different winners. It's kind of been crazy to see how many different guys can win. Kind of shows the equalness of all the equipment and everything in iRacing. So pretty cool on that aspect, but excited for Logan in the playoffs, and hopefully Nick can get in this final race.
Nothing like having the founder of your team excited and confident that you will end up there. Thanks so much, William Byron, for stopping by on Countdown to Green. So fans, we've crunched the numbers, we've gone to the whiteboard, we've made and we've deleted graphics, we've come up with all the drivers who are mathematically locked into the playoffs. Let's talk about 3 different scenarios. Chris, break down our win it and you're in scenario.
Oh man, this is my favorite part of ever. So we've got some guys who can make the playoffs tonight, and all they gotta do is win in the hardest sim racing oval competition in the entire world. Steven Wilson, Corey Vincent, go on, they win tonight. They get a shot into the playoffs. Nick Ottinger's hanging on by a literal thread. And then if they do, they're in a dogfight, because only 3 of them are going to make it in, and one of them's going home if one of those 5 on the left. It would go to who has the most top 5, so Ryan loses, looking pretty safe as long as he ends up at least tying for that final transfer spot playoffs. I mean, pretty simple for the guys on the left, though. You just get a win.
Win, but win.
Buddy.
Oh, come on!
So we're going to have to look on the left side of the board here.
Let's just add "yet" to the end of that sentence.
Yes. As we see the scenario number 2, the left side of the board here, we have Dylan Duvall. I think our graphics is messing up. I'm sorry about that, guys.
Garrett Lowe is definitely one of them.
Yeah, Garrett Lowe is definitely one of them. And a couple other guys. Here it is, scenario number 2. Win, but with conditions. You see the drivers on the left side of the board. If they win, if you're Dylan Duvall, you still have to score 10 more points than Luza or Bob Bryant just to make it into the playoffs. So a lot of different scenarios tonight. You can still win tonight and not make it if you don't score enough points. And if you're Bob Bryant, Ryan Luza, Jimmy Mullis, Logan Clampett, I'm still a little worried. You're going to do your best tonight. You're going to have to go for the win also.
Yeah, I mentioned that we had to delete graphics. We just deleted the one that mattered on that one. Sorry about that, Bonnie and Brandon. All right, Michael, let's talk about Hail Marys.
Oh my goodness.
Now this is a graphic, all right. This is the Shearburn Hail Mary. We're talking about Chris Shearburn here. If you look off to your left, this is if he wins. This is option number 1. He has to win to have a chance, and then if he gets that win, he has to be above top 20 in the point standings, which is Garrett Lowe currently. So he's 9 points below the cutoff of the top 20 cut, which is Garrett Lowe. So if he gets that win and he gets those 9 extra points on top of Garrett Lowe, he's in. Now you go over to the right side. This is if he finishes off the top step of the podium, but still is on the podium. If he finishes second, he's got to hope that Jimmy Mullis, Bob Bryant, and Ryan Luza all have bad days, 36 or worse. If that doesn't happen and he finishes third, Bob Bryant and Ryan Luza got to have bad days. So regardless, everything needs to go right for Chris Shearburn. He's got to be on that podium, or there's no chance whatsoever for him to get in, but he needs that win to be at least a little bit comfortable about his position going into the playoffs.
There is a fourth scenario. They won't let me talk too much about it, but there's like a 1 in 50 million chance that Ray Alfala makes the playoffs. And it's man, oh man.
You know
what?
what?
About the outside looking in.
Don't count him out. Don't count him out. He's so far outside looking in, he can't even see in, but he's there.
You know, Chris, I'm not counting them out, and I also want to hear from everybody else who's watching right now your favorite scenario. Let's hear who you think is going to get it done at the end of this season and why and how they're going to do it. Also, fans, we asked and you delivered. We love all the drivers out there showing off their sim rigs at home. This segment is brought to you by Logitech. Here's a look at more rigs for the archive. All right, have a look, gentlemen.
I wanna talk about. Oh my goodness!
Oh, wow,
Look at that.
That 26 car is beautiful though.
Yeah.
Ooh, we got a
nice setup
fan.
Yeah, he's a McMurray fan. Little Jamie baby.
Dude, the blue lighting sets it all up for it.
I think so too. Gary, this is a nice setup.
Oh, I love the
I can't
button
tell
box.
is that 2 or 3 monitors? Just
I like
angle
the
picture
gloves.
was taken.
Yeah.
You know, when I race with gloves as well.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
I like to feel the steering wheel. I'm sorry, I'm weird.
Austin
Look at
Drake.
Austin's got a nice microphone set up.
You see
better
the
than Michael's.
little iRacing diecast there,
Oh.
Chris? In the bottom left? That's pretty
Ooh,
cool.
yeah.
I like the iRacing diecast. Yeah, triple monitors, got the Logitech wheel on the desk. Yep.
Really nice. Ooh,
Now,
how
this is
big that?
clean. This is clean.
See, I'm team triple monitors over the curved monitor, but that looks nice, and also the huge sombrero definitely cleans it up as
You
well.
know, you got to protect yourself from the sunlight from the iRacing, iRacing sun rays.
Brett D knows how to party.
Okay, this one is my personal favorite. So this is Max. Max has cerebral palsy, so it makes it a lot more difficult for him to sim race, but he's not backing down from a challenge. So he's actually holding a controller and using the triggers to control the gas and the brake, and with his wrists and his forearms, he turns the steering wheel. If that's not dedication, I don't know what is. Shout out to Max. He's got his Logitech wheel set up, and he looks damn good.
That's
Yeah.
really awesome.
Another reason I love technology too. It's phenomenal.
The
I love it.
accessibility is great.
Absolutely. Great job, Max. All right, Matt. Nice.
We got a Chase Elliott fan. Look at the wheel. Look at the logo.
Hooters on the steering wheel.
I like
Maybe
it.
he likes
cool.
chicken wings. Maybe it's not Chase
Hey,
Elliott.
them Hooters wings, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a nice setup. I like that.
It looks like there's more gloves. A lot of glove fans.
Yeah.
I'm in the wrong on this
Hey,
one
I
as
think
well.
I have that pair myself. That's a nice little pair of gloves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whoa.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
who's winning? Who's winning the game?
Oh yeah. Is that Nebraska?
I don't know. But
Multitasker.
the quadruple monitor setup and then the 5th monitor to watch the game under caution.
You know what I love about this, Chris? He's got a little Daytona track map.
That's what I
Yeah.
was gonna say. That's
love that.
that's awesome.
I need to
love
get
the track
myself
map.
one of those.
They're really nice. Yeah.
That's really nice. Eric.
Whoa.
He's
This
got
camera-
the chassis.
Wow.
This looks like
All
this was
the
taken
lighting.
from a security camera on his roof, but it's super cool still. I mean, it's just zoomed out a little too.
I mean, all of the lighting in there is great.
And then here's
Look at Alvar.
Alvar.
Is
Looking
that a
good.
pillow for support? A pillow for support? Those races
Oh
seem to be
yeah.
pretty long.
Mm-hmm.
You need back support. Thanks so
I-
much
I-
for sending this one in.
I like the wire management. They're out of the way.
It's
You're not
pretty
gonna
good.
you're not gonna get your ankle caught up when you're braking.
Is that a thing?
Cadell,
Oh,
our
Jonathan
boy Jonathan
Cadell.
Cadell.
Look,
Let's
this
go.
man, this man has 6 separate streams up on his large wide monitor screen.
Wow.
Goodness.
And then he's got the big green egg machine on board of Michael Guest right there in the top middle monitor.
That's a way to watch the
I
eNASCAR Coca-Cola
I love
race
Jonathan
right there.
Cadell. The way that we greet each other, I can't do it here on the broadcast. Unfortunately, I'll lose my job. But shout out to Jonathan. Love what you got on Twitter.
Yeah, that's great.
And then
The
there's
man
William.
himself.
That
He's
is a rig.
That's
Absolutely.
that's
He's-
amazing right there.
Almost completely surrounded.
Yeah, with the 3 wide screens. Oh, and the top screen up top with surround sound on top of his headset.
I'm gonna steal what Cattell said earlier when we saw this photo earlier on. That rig has won a lot of pro invitational races.
Yes, it has.
It almost looks like a 3D center with those speakers.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's amazing. Absolutely. Thank you so much for everybody who sent in your pictures. Share yours too by tweeting us a picture using the hashtag eNASCAR and tag iRacing and NASCAR. All right. Well, our qualifying has just wrapped up for the evening, so we have 2 very special guests joining us live since qualifying. We want to hear how their night's going. Hello, gentlemen. We've got Nick Ottinger and Logan Clampett. How is qualifying? How you guys feeling going into tonight's race?
Feeling great. We got first and third in qualifying, so we're ready to go.
Ready
That's
to go.
clutch.
All right, Nick, how are you feeling?
I'm just looking at the car ahead of me as my teammate, so I think we have a good start for our Logitech G and this Logitech G Challenge 100. So excited. You always have our nerves going into each race, but we done our job first, third, and qualifying. So just got to make sure we get our win tonight.
Absolutely. Now, how you guys display nerves is completely different. Logan's, I'm feeling great, and you're a little more reserved. Logan, are you going to do anything to help get Nick into the playoffs?
I'm going to go out there and try and win the race. It's all going to come down to that. And, I'm not in the best position entering this race. I'm only, 20 points ahead of Luza, Molis, and Bryant. So if we get a new winner and, worst case scenario, I'll get wrecked and they get a top 10, then, I could be out. You just never know. I just want to stay out of trouble and, try and get a top 25 finish, but a win would be really great.
Absolutely. Keep it clean. Well, we are rooting for you here on Countdown to Green. Thanks so much for taking time, especially before such a big race this season. Good luck to the both of you.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds
All
like
right.
we have no team orders over there.
Tonight, round 14 of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series takes on the virtual Michigan International Speedway for the Logitech G Challenge 100. We turn to Chris Overland for a track analysis and an onboard look of the Speedway.
All right. Thank you, Amy. We are going to the Michigan International Speedway, home of some of the greatest finishes in eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series history, some of which I was involved in and caused a lot of problems. So we've got a 2-mile speedway here that drives like a super speedway, but a little bit less banking, 18 degrees of banking, been around since 1968. And God, it puts on a show. You're going to be 4 or 5 wide around here, almost fully flat out, if not flat out for many laps tonight. We're going to go on board here with this Logitech G machine. Obviously, you want to stay in the draft. It's a very, very busy racetrack. You've got 3, 4, even 5 wide. You can use the 8er. Obviously, you want to stay in the draft, and then once you get into the corner, that banking, it's really not going to hold you in the track very well. The aerodynamics are going to be important. You want a straight shot off the corner. As far as straight, smooth shot into the corner, you want to get that air off of the front of your nose and then get a straight shot off turn 4, keep the car as stable as the run 5 wide, clip the grass, take out the field, and then you're in the playoffs. So there's a lap around the Michigan International Speedway, one of my favorite tracks. Obviously, it's going to put on a great show tonight for you guys.
Hey, Chris, haven't you been inside the grass before? Down the front stretch?
I think we all have, Michael.
Look,
I
man.
think we all have.
Yeah.
I got closer than you did. That's all that mattered.
We are looking forward to an exciting round 14. Let's get some picks from you guys. Brandon, we'll start with you. Who do you think's taking the checkers?
We talked to him earlier. Obviously, he qualified good. That's good news for me. Nick Ottinger, I want more points. So Nick Ottinger's going to win tonight, guys.
That's a solid pick. That is a solid pick. And I mean, granted, it is the Logitech G Challenge 100, but I'm going to talk about somebody whose name starts with a G. He needs to be a G to make it into the playoffs. Michael Guest. He's been sim racing for 12 years, and he is 23 years old. Me and Brandon know Mikey from way back.
Since he was about 10 years old, we were racing with Michael.
Oh, my goodness. Michael, we believe in you. We believe in you from the old days of racing the Papyrus games. We love you. Get into the playoffs, man. Get it done. And get me some points over Cattell.
Calling on another Michael. Michael, who do you think's going to win tonight?
Dude, I hope you guys like me as much as you guys like Guest.
Oh, it's another Michael G as well.
I am going to go with the walk-off winner. That's going to get in the playoffs. That's going to be Steven Wilson in the 17 machine for Roush Fenway. I think he's going to get that Castro color in victory lane tonight and walk his way into the playoffs.
Wow, we all three picked somebody who's got to do it. That's fun.
But which one's it going to be?
Oh, also, I want to point out, they actually gave me Vicente's points from last week, so I gained a point on Cattell. So we're looking good. We're all bunched up. Every point matters.
I need you to know you all picked walk-off winners, too. So this is going to be a great race tonight. Really exciting. Remember, tweet us a picture of your rig. We want to show them off during our next show. For everyone behind the camera of Countdown to Green that brings this show to life, thanks so much. For my panel of drivers, Brandon Cattell, Chris Overland, Michael Guerrilla, thank you so much for joining us on Countdown to Green. Enjoy the action as the top 40 oval sim racers in the world compete for more than $300,000. Round 14 of the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola's iRacing Series is next.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
I am the regular season coming to a close. And what happened left eyes wide open with displays of dominance, long shot surprises, and tracks that turned veterans into rookies. I am still not done. In fact, I'm saving the best for last and a playoff spot for anyone that wants it bad enough. I am NASCAR.
It doesn't matter where you're from, who you grew up rooting for, what you grew up watching, your home track, your favorite car, the series you've always wanted to race in. When you're ready to know what it's like, we're here, bringing you as close to the action as it gets with the ultimate sim racing experience. With a community of hundreds of thousands just like you. This is iRacing, and here, every day is race day.
Welcome to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, Michigan, anyway. The regular season ends tonight. If you waited till now to punch your ticket, you might be too late. You see, this playoff dance card is full. Two guys who won, they might be stuck on the sidelines. You might be able to sneak your way in, but you're gonna have to win. And when this dance floor is full, it's any guess who will be the last one standing in Motown.
The road to $300,000 has reached a critical turning point, where tonight from the virtual Michigan International Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the regular season finale for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. This is the Logitech G Challenge 100. We're happy that you're spending a Tuesday evening with us. As always, we're alongside myself, Evan Pasoko. Happy to be joined once more by Steve Letarte and Parker Kligerman in the broadcast booth this evening. Steve, will bounce to you this one first. Watkins Glen, the big walk-off win by Graham Boland, changed our entire points picture, and it didn't settle anything. If anything, it made that discussion that much more complicated coming into tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different opportunities for guys, so many ways you can make the playoffs, so many ways you can be eliminated. I'll be honest, I'm not going to try to keep up and try to guess on who's going to do what and what the math is going to be. I'm going to sit back, call this race with you guys, and enjoy. I love when, the competitors are put into a vice of pressure, and I feel that's what they're in tonight.
And it may not be a Daytona, Parker, like you'll see in the Cup Series regular season finale, but you saw in those clips there right before we got on here. I mean, this package at Michigan is going to make for a very wild race. There's going to be guys points racing. There's guys going to be racing for a win, all in that madness together, and it should put us in store for a really exciting show.
No doubt. Yeah, you have a lot of agendas out there, some trying to make the playoffs and make their season, some just with that last-ditch effort to make it in, and some just trying to hold on to the position they already have in the playoffs. But you mentioned it. I'm expecting some really exciting racing tonight. I think it might be very similar to what we've known at Daytona or some of the super speedways with this package at Michigan. I've been told by some of the drivers, you do have a predominant groove in the middle, but that outside lane, even, all the way up maybe to the fourth lane, is available to be used. And if you want to make a pass, sometimes you're going to have to do it using the slide job. Go down the bottom, try to make the track as short as possible, and then slot yourself back in line. Otherwise, you'll maybe not have the draft and you'll lose those positions. So this could be a very, very exciting regular season finale.
Just funny, we're talking about terms like that we're used to hearing at like shorter tracks, right? It happens here at a 2-mile D-shaped oval in Michigan that has historically been one of the fastest tracks on the calendar. We have seen 12 different race winners over the 13 rounds so far. Let's see what we have in store for another chapter of this incredible 2021 season. Let's go trackside, though. Get tonight kicked off and hand things off to tonight's Grand Marshal. Michigan International Speedway held a social media sweepstakes to win this role, so Peggy Maynor from Monroe, Michigan gets us underway.
Drivers, start your engines.
Well, let's get started. On pole position is Logan Clampett with a 38.390. He'll bring us to the ring flying tonight alongside Ashton Crowder. Nick Ottinger and Chris Shearburn will double up for row number 2, ahead of Bob Bryant and Keegan Leahy, your top 6. Mitchell DeYoung starts 7 tonight alongside Mike Conti, P8, and Ryan Luza and Dylan Duvall are our top 10 drivers. You got Corey Vincent, Graham Boland, Davies, Gorlinski, and Kerwin through your top 15 drivers. Bobby Zelensky down in 16th, ahead of Femi Olak, Miller Hurst, Michael Guest, and Steven Wilson, your top 20 cars. And that's only about a half-tenth off of the pole time. 21st is Zach Novak ahead of Anthony Burrows, Ethan Lyon, and Alan Bowes on row number 12. Jimmy Mullis, 25th, Malik Gray, 26th, with Ryan Doucette, Blake Reynolds, Jacob Matheson, and Garrett Maines, your top 30. Matt Busa back from 31st alongside Vicente Salas. Ray Alfalo needs a lot more than 33rd tonight, but that's where he is on the inside of row 17 alongside Garrett Lowe. Blade Witt will start 35th. Derek Justice is 36th. Zach Nichols, Brian Schoenberg, Jake Nichols, and Kane Cook is a look top to bottom at your starting grid here tonight from Michigan. Well, it's a Logitech G Chevy on pole for the Logitech G Challenge 100. Parker, you're dialed up with the driver of the 97, Logan Clampett.
Right, let's see if we can tune in here. Logan, congratulations on the pole position. How important is track position going to be tonight?
Oh, it's going to be extremely important. It's going to be really hard to pass on the inside, I think. During our A Open last night, it was kind of sort of like what you saw at Pocono, where it was just kind of, people on the high side kind of just trained the guy on the inside. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I really want to play it safe here. I don't want to get wrecked or anything because I want to put myself in the best position to, lock ourselves into the playoffs after this race. So, gonna try and stay up front. Hopefully we can. If we kind of get shuffled mid-pack, just gonna try and play it safe.
I was just gonna say, what is the plan if you do get shoved in the pack? How do you keep everyone at bay and keep yourself safe?
My plan was just try and save tires the best as possible. I think it's going to be really crazy at the end, especially all these guys, they're going after a win to get into the playoffs. So it's going to be really chaotic at the end, and I just hope that I'm not caught up in the mess, and the three drivers behind me in points finish way in front of me. That's worst case scenario. And we get a different winner. So, anything can happen. Look at last year. I was, I think 25 points to the good. And I kind of messed myself up there at Talladega, and we didn't make the playoffs. I don't want to do that again this year. And hopefully we can just go and have a clean race.
Got it. Good luck, buddy. And I also remember that as well.
Thank you, Parker.
Well, that is your pole sitter for tonight's race. Logan Clamp is going to have the best seat in the house when he brings us to the green flag here in just a minute. One of many race winners hoping to stay in the playoffs by the time we're done, Steve. Tonight's race is going to be very different than the short sprint we saw at Watkins Glen. Walk us through it with our Asus race analysis.
Well, here at Michigan, one of my favorite racetracks. It's 100 laps. It's a 2-mile track, so it makes up a 200-mile race. Pit road speed, 55 miles per hour. It takes about 22 seconds to go down pit road, so add a pit stop to that. That's how long you're there. 3 sets of tires available. And then that fuel window, 39 to 44 with like a little asterisk. Because I think, we have seen drivers run longer with some draft, using the clutch, trying to coast as far as they can. So we'll see if anybody tries to make it a 1-stop, but I expect 2 stops today.
Been alluded to, Parker, that draft is going to be big, and it really is. I mean, we take a look at the weather conditions. It's a hot and slick track temp at 109 degrees Fahrenheit, so maybe that'll mean these guys are slipping and sliding around just a little bit, but the package on these cars means that there's going to be somebody breathing down your neck every waking moment, I think.
No doubt. You really don't have any to rest. You'll constantly be in a pack, someone on you. We do hear about, if you're flat out in qualifying, there is a bit of lifting as the run goes on, and there is a bit of tire wear, so handling will come into play here tonight. But as Steve alluded to, we saw at California, Bob Bryant, he won that on a 1-stop strategy. I don't think that will be available here tonight, but, a lot of people, they hold those strategies close to their vest. We'll see.
I didn't think it was available at California for the fact.
Only one way to find out. Pace car going to go off and in as always. Happy that you're spending your Tuesday night with us. The field in the hands of Logan Clamp. And as we say, let's go racing from Michigan. And a good advantage for Clampett, first time through the quarter, joined by teammate Nick Ottinger in second. The battle's going to be for third. Wrong direction for Ashton Crowder at a turn 2.
Yeah, I expected the high side to be just dominant right away. That's where everyone wanted to get. But even at least on the start there, you want to be on the bottom, shortest distance around. Now you start, I think, to see that sort of middle lane start to form up. The guys on the bottom are going to want to move up, although it's about 3 wide back there, 4 wide coming off turn 4.
You see the 36.
That was bold, Steve. That's your guy there, the 36, right? That was the big story coming out of Watkins Glen as Chris Shearburn really wants to get a win to make up for the damage that Bolin did to him. And I don't know if he wants to be 3-4 wide this early, but for the moment, he breaks out of that group running in P6.
Well, yeah, it was definitely not the smoothest start. Lost a little track position from that front row qualifying effort, but in the end, you're going to see right there, he's got back in line. Now it's all about patience, and you see on the left-hand side all the different colors. The goal is to be red. Red is locked in. You're in the playoffs. Yellow drivers, they're on the border, and the blue ones are still fighting to get in. So you see all of those different colors towards the front. I expect to see that all night.
Your red has historically been not the color you want to be shaded in, but it is the Coke Series. So red means you are a playoff driver, and all those drivers in yellow, if they're up at the front, they're doing their job. That includes Logan DeClampett. Nick Ottinger in an interesting position because he could really look for a win to lock himself in. So those teammates could be a factor as we go on board with Michael Guest. He's kind of right in the thick of things right now where they're using a lot of the racetrack park. You mentioned that they're going to use it. I mean, this is a wide racetrack, some 72 feet wide and whatnot, and they're 3 lanes at the moment, but it's not like a panicked 3 wide. I mean, they're 3 wide, but look at all the space still they have to work with. Some drivers preferring to go to the outside, other drivers cutting low. Looked like the top had the momentum that time, though, down to 1.
Oh, yeah, this is awesome to see. You know, Michigan's starting to turn into this in real life, and we're seeing it here on the sim as well. You know, that top lane, you start to see it sort of freight train to bottom. That happens all the time at places like Michigan in the trucks, and when with the package we run in Cup, you have to be in the draft. If you're not, it almost feels like you've thrown a parachute out. If you're not having the positive momentum, cars will fly by you on the outside. They'll side draft you and just slow you down to where you're losing, 3, 4, 5 spots in one straightaway. It can be very frustrating. So we'll see that line sort of form up on the top. But then as you see those cars as they dive to the bottom, they're trying to basically sort of use the shorter distance, maybe find a lane or a hole to slot in to sort of get that spot. And we'll start to see some cars, start to move their way up methodically by going to that bottom and then sliding in those open spots as they start to pick cars off one by one.
The problem, Parker, is if you go to the bottom and you don't find that opening and you can't slide back up in line, the guy behind gets on your right rear quarter panel, you need to expect to lose at least 1, if not 2 spots down the next straightaway. And then you hope that spot opens up in the top lane.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It's a risk. Every time you go to the bottom, they're looking back there. They're still 3 wide, right in the middle of the field. I couldn't quite see who it was, but I mean, there's a gaggle of cars back there. Some backing up in the middle, some on the top, all over the place.
The easy one to tell right away was the 18 Machine Femi Olat, who sticks out. That's Davies to his outside. Up the road is DeYoung. Corey Vincent sliding back just a little bit. This is in the high teens, and it's about 1.6 or so seconds off of the race leaders. You can see, I mean, Vincent had the kind of short end of the straw off of 2, lost a lot of speed. He was good on the bottom through the quarter, but the top side is where everybody's able to carry all that speed as they race back off of 4 and that very long run down to turn number 1. No changes up front early in this race, though. Logan Clampett has been dialed in since the drop of the green flag, already working lap number 7 of this 100-lap contest. And the leaders, maybe a bit of space, single file. Those guys outside of the top 25 as well, but the mid-pack is real busy as we bring in the 4th member of our broadcast team down to pit road with Tim.
Evan, you mentioned the front drivers not really changing right now, but something that is going to change throughout this race is strategy. Here's a little bit of a call from Garrett Lowe.
So what is our strat here? We're saving, or are we full dig?
Oh, I am going to be the most aggressive I've ever been in my entire life.
Okay, so we're sending it.
Because
You've
been
like
because
3
laps. Not only do I need to win, I need people to wreck. So like, I can't just win and have an orderly race.
And to add to that, I was talking to Bob Bryan and their team and kind of listening in, and they said from lap number 1, we're going to be saving and get ready to call an audible for that crew and Marcus Lindsay for Bob Bryan if they decide to see other people come in.
Well, that's the duality of all of this, right, Parker and Steve? I mean, you got a guy like Garrett Lowe, who is 20th in the points without a win, saying he's going full dig from the start of this race. Flip side, you got Bob Bryant, who is in at the moment, and he's the one that's going to be saving and conserving. I mean, that's really what's going to be so chaotic about this race, is all those different agendas that everyone's going to have to try to make work.
I think the key to points racing is that was a big squeeze in front of the 83 of Zielinski. Zielinski looks high now. You mentioned, Parker, they're going to keep climbing up the banking. That's the 3rd, I'll call it almost the 4th line for the 33 and the 83, and they get a little momentum. What I was trying to say before the action was the key to these agendas is to know who you're racing. Don't get caught up in the field. Make sure you focus on who you need to beat tonight.
That's really correct, and it helps you as a driver because you know if you need to take that risk to get by them, whatever it is, or if you see them doing something that's really aggressive and you're on an entirely different strategy, it's good to know those things. You have to know those things. So as we see this bottom lane starting to form up a little bit right now, led by Graham Bolin. You got Anthony Burrows in there. This is great racing.
One of the hardest workers at all of that was Corey Vincent. He was basically pushing Graham Bolin down the back straightaway. Let's lay out, listen in on board with Corey Vincent with a Coca-Cola onboard camera. So he has been on the inside for the majority of this battle and kind of holding steady. Vincent took the green flag in 11th position. He rides 12th right now, maybe 11th, as he has the nose in front for a moment on Bolin, now no longer. But certainly starting to see the field begin to spread out, and you heard it there with the onboard, all of that feathering and lifting going on through the corner. Maybe these guys, I don't want to say they're being cautious, but maybe a little bit conservative or reserved early in this race. As you can see, the top 10, I think, all single file the last time by the start-finish line, Parker.
Right, and I was actually getting a text here from a buddy of mine, Blake McCandless. He just said that he felt like there was a couple cars clutching he was hearing and he was getting some info on. So there's definitely some cars that may be looking at trying to do this in one stop, like we saw Bob Bryant do at California. You know, if you can get past lap 50 and be able to stretch it all the way, that could effectively allow you to do it one stop and put you in a great position if it goes green all the way to the end. Or even if the caution comes out at the right time, you could be in a great position. So this is, I think there's some definite alternate strategies going on, and there's more than just a couple of cars trying to make that strategy possibly work and using the draft and clutching and lifting to their advantage. This is going to get very interesting.
Now, Parker, 15 laps ago, you told me that a one-stop wasn't going to be in play.
No, I said I thought it possibly was.
I did want to ask you, though, we see the guys running the bottom. How much more tire do you think you use? You know, in this sim world, whenever I run, it's so hard to feel at times, but to run the bottom, you got to have a little more wheel in it. You think of using those front tires a little bit more?
Yeah, as we see Ray Alfaro make a lunge down there. I do think so. I think you know, these guys obviously being the pros they are amazing at knowing exactly how much wheel input to put in, exactly where that tire limit is and how much you want to slip it, what that percentage, what it takes away percentage-wise. But there's no doubt if you're asking the car to turn more, right, you're going to use more tire, and especially if your car is tight or loose, whatever tire you're leaning on more, you're going to use it by going to the bottom, and especially with the lower banking down there, you're just asking the car to do more.
Well, Fallon's going to try to make another move here. He'll go down to the inside of Bobby Zelensky, and we'll try to get about 3-4 spots all into one swing of the bat this time, but we're talking points. That is the big conversation tonight, and we'll actually have the ability to track live points at points during tonight's show, so we'll be keeping an eye on that to pop up on screen at some points and try to keep an eye on how things are going. Just want to note that Ray Alfaro is blitzing through the field right now at the pace that he is setting. He started, remember, back in 33rd position. He is a top 10 car right now running in 7th. So he's on a move. And there is your live points on the right-hand side of the screen. Of course, Logan Clampett showing tentatively second in the championship because, well, 2 race wins. better than 1. So that would filter him up after coming into this evening, scored in about the number 8 position in the playoff points. But all those drivers underneath, the 17, the 3, the 9, the 38, those are guys who need race wins. We'll check in with that all night. Parker, I want to bounce back on, you talk about all the data and how much information these guys have. I think one of the most obvious ones, differences sim to real world, is the fact that these guys actually know their exact fuel number, right? So you can get a little bit more specific, but having been somebody who's driven on the sim, and of course in real life, how does the data you get out of the sim compare to the real world?
Well, it's actually very close. You get, they obviously, as you pointed out, they get more, right? But they also don't have a team of engineers normally that we have, maybe, the real life, especially in the Cup Series, that are doing a lot of the same calculations, and they have it down to a science of using SMT data that we have in real life to sort of factor out exactly what your fuel mileage is and how much fuel you're using. So we're hearing that we may have an issue with drivers.
Yeah, so this was a conversation that we knew was coming into this evening. There's quite a storm in the Charlotte area. A lot of drivers were concerned about this, and Nick Ottinger was looking to have a huge night tonight, entered this evening needing a race win to be a playoff driver. He has lost connection to this race. He's the only one so far that has had any issue, but we knew this was a concern. He was up front in a spot to try to go and defend his championship this year. If he could win this afternoon, Nick Ottinger is no longer in this race. We will update if he can get back in, if it was just an issue with a blip in the power or his internet and cable service and all that has gone down. But I mean, if it's power and he doesn't get back into this race, Ottinger's night done, just like that. Top 5 cars. So didn't want to jump in on that conversation there, partner, but huge news there, and Nick Ottinger dropping out of this race in the first 20 laps.
No doubt, that's a huge shame. Obviously, such a great champion for this league. He's represented so well. I know he, puts a lot of pride and effort into his sim racing, and is one of the ultimate biggest stars in sim racing. So that's such a shame when it's external factors to take you out, just like real life. But I'm also worried we might lose our buddy in the booth here. Steve, we still got you there? I know you're in Charlotte.
I'm still here, and I did mention that before we got on the broadcast. The storms have been rolling through. First of all, we hope everybody's okay. The tropical storm has kind of come up through the Gulf. It's affected a lot of people. There's been a lot of storms and tornadoes. So we hope everybody's safe, but in the sim world, we hope everybody has power. So if I disappear, you can add me to the power list. The one thing on the right-hand side I want to point out is I wish it was exactly this clear, but that 11th place car, the 36th of Chris Sherburne, while he does have a win, and that would have the opportunity of putting him into the playoffs. Remember, they only take 10. And sitting at 11th, that's because he's outside the top 20 in points, and he's not high enough up where he's going to be guaranteed to be in. So when I look at Sherburne's opportunity, I believe it's basically a win is the only way to advance, as we're on board right here. He's had a good year. He got that win, but who would have thought, Evan, over 10 winners has really made those playoff picture complicated.
You were talking pre-race how last year, without this win in your in system, we had an 8-driver playoff. When we expanded to 10 this year, I don't think anybody really thought we'd exceed that number in race winners. But as you mentioned off at the top of the show, we've seen 12 in 13. And those wins are so interesting because, again, it is wins and then points, but inside of the wins, you are ranked by your normal point standings, right? So, well, why is Chris Sherburne behind Ryan Luza between 10th and 11th position as we look at Ray Alfala, who's got a challenge in his own right? Well, that's because Chris Sherburne, live points, is a top 20 car. That's why his win does show up and Ray Alfala's doesn't, because Ray is not in the top 20 in the points. However, because Ryan Luza is 14th in normal points and Chris Sherburne is currently 20th, he ends up as the lowest of the race winners. That is the difference maker. And obviously Graham Boland leading the regular points but not having a win was out. The win, he goes in. I mean, that's what makes all of this so complicated, Parker. And if I'm a Mullis or a Bryant or a Luza, some of the guys who we were chatting about earlier, and you heard it on the Countdown to Green, those guys in the 13s and 14s that are in right now still have a cause for concern because there's a lot of drivers above them in normal points without a win that could win and boot them. A Wilson, a Vincent, a Guest, a Kerwin, an Ottinger, who we documented his issues tonight and has not loaded back into the session. So just because you had a win does not mean you're safe. And to Steve's point, I did not see that coming when we started this season a couple months back.
No doubt, as we see Ray Alfala dive the bottom of Bob Bryant there. Obviously, Bob came into this tied with Luza, to be making the playoffs with his win, but he's in a very intense spot considering that, as you mentioned, he can be knocked out by others winning or just falling behind the points. And Ray Alfala there, we got to sort of tell two different stories. So the 51 right there of Ray Alfala, he's going for broke. You can tell. He's driving through the field. I think he started back in the 30s, maybe 33rd or something.
Yeah, he's plus 30.
Exactly. So he's flying through the field. Meanwhile, we were on board with Shearburn there. He was clutching and coasting, trying to save fuel, playing an alternate strategy that we think many of these guys are trying to do this race on one stop. So we have got obviously different strategies. We've got different agendas, and we've got some that Ray Alfala, I believe, that are just saying, I'm just going to get to the front of this race, see if I can control it, and put myself in the best position by basically getting to the lead.
You know what I learned from all the points conversations is win. That's
Yeah,
basically the conversation
that solves
I had with
everything,
Shearburn
right?
today. Is to your point, you can let your head spin with the math as a competitor and as a viewer and as a broadcaster. But the simple fact is you have to go out and run and try to win. If you win, your opportunities go away.
And Ray Alfala has had a handful of really good runs as of late, but all the road races that we had in the last month is what hurt him, right? He was getting top 10s, top 20s on the ovals, but high 30s on the road courses, and that is really what has put him on the back end and needing a second race win just to get the points to get into a top 20 position. We watched this battle for 8th, Gorlinski, Duval, Shearburn, and Zelensky, and that's notable because you look to the left-hand side of your screen, Vincent, Duval, and Shearburn are drivers highlighted in blue, needing race wins to punch their ticket into the playoffs. So watch those blue drivers go up the standings on the left. Look for some of the drivers in the yellow to go down. That would be the big storyline, but Clampett has been dominant thus to this point, but just a moment ago, Ray Alfala took another step up the ladder to 3rd in the running order. The next closest mover is actually Taylor Hurst in front of him, a driver who is not in a position to race for the championship this year, guys. He's kind of slipped under our nose here, but Taylor Hurst is plus 16 spots from 18th. So goes to show you, if you want to dig, you can, but again, it's all those different strategies that are influencing these moves.
Right, and especially in his position, if you're one of those drivers, just go for it. What do you got to lose? Nothing, right? It's absolutely nothing. As we see Nick Ottinger back here, so he was able to get back in the sim. He's obviously in fresher tires there as he flies by Anthony Burroughs. AC Kerwin, he looks about he's 1,000 times faster.
Well, Parker, that's my point about the one stop. Like, I know why they try to do it, but you're giving up so much raw speed on fresh tires and using the clutch and coasting. And I mean, one bad timed yellow, and I just don't see how it's going to be the right strategy.
You know better than me.
Well, the tricky thing is here, right, if you're going to eliminate a pit stop, then you're going to save, we saw the pit delta was 22 seconds plus the time in the box. So, somewhere in the high 30s to 40-second range of actual time on pit road. If you're eliminating a pit stop, you're saving yourself 40 seconds, but are you slowing down, hurting yourself 40 seconds over the course of the run, right? That'll be the interesting thing. Obviously, Ottinger is on fresh tires, but he is down 11 laps after that issue. There is, I don't think, any way that Nick Ottinger gets those 11 laps back in tonight's race. Such a tough way for this race to come down after it started oh so well, but your top 3 are starting to bunch up just a little bit. Those intervals are creeping on in. Ray Alfala closing in on the race leaders. It's Hurst in second, but Alfala down at the bottom for P2. Can he make that Rowdy Energy Toyota stick off of 2? A little bit of a bobble there, and Hurst carrying all that speed. Good defensive line.
Oh, and you got to slot back in right there if you want to have another shot at it. See, Bob Bryant gets a big run on Ray Alfala. That is a great example, even this late in the run, that if you don't get that pass complete on the bottom, Nick Ottinger flies around the outside with his super grip. If you don't get that pass complete on the bottom, then you are in a world of hurt. As now they've been side by side, 2 corners, and they probably won't sort this out until we get down to turn 1.
And the big thing is, remember, if Ray Alfala can win, that's only half the battle. He already has a race win. What Ray needs is to get back and into the top 20 in points. obviously he would be the lowest of the 1 race winners this year, but if he could get 2 and get top 20, he would jump to the top. Ray Alfalla is only 7 points out of the top 20 as he runs now. Quick glance to pit road. That was Zach Nichols down for service at the 1/3 marker in this race. So if you're going for the 2-stopper, might see those drivers headed to pit road soon. So far, he is the only taker in the field. But, I mean, it was I think they said a Hail Mary was the term our Countdown to Green crew was using with these guys. But at the moment, Ray Alfalla in the mix at least.
In the mix, and that's what he needs to do. And I put the pressure on, Parker, you and I have both been in the positions in our career where all you have to do is something. Well, once you start talking about it that way, where all you have to do is score 5 points, all you have to do is stay inside the top 20, then instantly it becomes almost an impossible task when you focus on it, where you flip. And Ray Alfalla would much rather be in, and here you go, you mentioned it, the 2-stop cars would come to pit road a little early, and here they are, a bunch of them all at once. What is it, 6, 7 cars hit pit road at lap 34.
And I agree with you, Steve. It's exactly that. It's like when you're trying to do a set of push-ups, right? And you tell yourself, I'm only going to do 20. There's no way you're getting past 20 push-ups, right? Because it's almost a self-limiting belief. And I think it's the same thing when you're in a position where you have to do something. That is just something that limits you in what you have to do. You got to aim for the best possible scenario and then hope it works out. And I think, Tim, you have more?
Yeah, Parker, these teams that just came down pit road this last lap were communicating with each other, trying to figure out a strategy. And the one thing that I caught on these radios is to force the strategy of those guys at the back that are conserving and have been clutching since lap number 1, lap number 2, to kind of get them to come down onto pit road or maybe change their strategy just a little bit and force some hands.
So I do think it's funny that the blue names have all now cycled to the top. That's not by chance or by luck. Those are all of the ones looking for a chance, looking for a way to move in. And Parker, that's why I think you see Alfalla, Duval, Shearburn. I put Zielinski up there because he's Shearburn's teammate. So he's a good teammate. I think he's going to be right behind Shearburn most of the night trying to help him. Then you have Novak and Kerwin. So it's no surprise that you see a lot of the blue highlighted names up at the top trying to stretch that one-stop strategy.
And how about Ray Alfalla, though? I mean, he was one that drove through the field. I didn't think he was saving at all throughout this entire run. So is he just trying to maybe just go long of these 2-stoppers and put himself in the best tire position later of these 2-stoppers, do you think? Or is he losing so much time right here? Look how slow he is compared to the new tires. That's not going to work out that way.
Well, I think it works as long as you hold some of them down a lap. So you got to put yourself in his position. You need points. So the guys that pitted, you're racing in points. If you can get a lucky yellow while they're down a lap, it works for you. But as they start to unlap themselves, then Alfalla's in a tough position.
Well, one thing I'm seeing, as we've seen some drivers cycle to the pit lane, and you can see there, -9. I mean, he's doing literally everything he can right now. He is leading. Bob Bryant puts down a new fast lap. He can't do any more. Those 9 points are going to have to come from those drivers in front of him in the points. The 52, the 21, the 2, the 75, losing spots elsewhere on track. Issue is, note the 9 against is 7th. He's on the same strategy as Alfalla. Going to be tricky as we're 3 wide down the back straightaway, and Mike Conti working hard on fresh tires, trying to unlap himself. The overwhelming majority of cars decided to stay out. So he looks like he's in the express lane, left-hand side of the freeway, HOV lane, passing everybody. Of those who pitted, guys, are all running 30th or worse. So it's like a dozen cars who came down and pitted. So 3/4 of our field, 30 drivers, appear to be committing to a longer run or the one-stop strategy, which I find interesting.
The concern I have is my time in scoring is a little on the fritz tonight, but I just think they're going to be, I think the one-stoppers are going to be caught. I mean, you're looking at my quick math, right? These guys are going to have an extra set of tires, probably fresh tires for 15 or 16 laps, 2 times. And, you know, you're looking at 30 laps at a 1.5 faster a lap. I don't know, Parker. I really think that the 2-stop guys might just do it if it runs green, just by being faster.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think, when I saw Bob Bryant commit to the 2-stop strategy here, I have to think that, the guy who did it so well in California, there's something wrong with trying the one-stopper here, and I think we're seeing it right now. On board with Conti, see the focus he has up there at the top of the screen, but he's flying on these tires, and this is just going to continue to compound over this run. I think there's a bit more fall-off maybe than some were expecting. I think, all those things combined, as you put it, just doing the simple math here, they're absolutely going to catch them over the course of the green flag runs.
Not to mention that when you do a one-stop strategy, your pit window is very small. You have 30 of them. Trying to get on pit road at the same time, Parker, can be chaotic. And if you play it a little safe to not get run over, you can give up 4 or 5, well, maybe not 4 or 5, but 2 or 3 seconds pretty easily if you're concerned about pitting with 30 cars.
Right, and if you do that, then what was the point of it, right? Then you've effectively negated a lot of the gains that you're going to have for pulling this one stopper. So this is it's what we love about racing, right? Seeing all these different strategies play out. We're trying to call it as we see it, but I just think that this is one of those scenarios where you have such a majority that went for maybe the alternate strategy, you would say, that I think that this is sort of hurting a lot of them to have this many cars doing the same strategy at the same time.
I have a hard
you would
time
think that the majority call is the call that most people would go with in the safer call. But interesting through all of this, guys, is that Logan Clampett, who was leading the race, is on that 2-tire call, right? He pitted. He is the leader on that cycle. He's been out there for 7 laps since he came down pit road. He is some 28 seconds off of the top spot. His last lap was a 39.055. It was a 40.521 for Ray Alfala at the top of the board. So that is your difference of about 1.5 seconds, old tires and fresh tires. But the discussion happening right now, actually, Logan Clampett is using the open radio chat as we pick up this battle for third. All these cars should be down pit road at about 8 laps or so. Logan Clampett is discussing over the open radio, guys, with John Gorlinski, Bob Bryant, Corey Vincent, and all these guys, that if they are really this few of them, they should all pit together, because not normally a thing you talk about outside of Daytona. Listen to all the off-throttle time here with Jake Matheson in 3. But you need other cars to pit with you because the draft is such a big factor. So he is actively campaigning over the radio right now to keep their group together.
Can you imagine what would happen, Parker, if we let drivers all talk to each other at Talladega or Daytona?
It'd be chaos. We did it. What did we do? That at Tandem era, we were at least able to talk like, 10 or 12 of us? It was horrible. So there was occasionally where it was fun, and then other times it was like, what are we doing here? I don't want to be speaking to this guy, and I think it would be madness if we could do it in real life. There would also be a tremendous amount of curse words, so it wouldn't be really PG.
The audio is fabulous. Just listen in.
I'm just listening to Matheson here. I mean, it is really a stark contrast. And look at the pack here as well. I mean, you're working that much harder in a pack. It's so easy for something like this to go wrong, but they all want that draft. That draft is so necessary to stay out this far. I mean, everybody is drafting but Ray Alfala and Dylan Duvall. Intervals left-hand side of your screen tell the tale. Look at that. 4th position through 19th. They're separated by just more than 1 second. That is this huge pack right here. But then Alfala and Duvall are some 2 seconds ahead of everybody else. So I don't know what they got figured out. Is squeaked out to the outside is Novak. And there's a good high shot of all of these drivers who are, in theory, working together, but also racing each other 3 wide at a turn 4. Ryan Luza just said over the radio, can we please not wreck each other? We're trying to save fuel.
Well, this is the point where then you want to be the leader of this, right? So now you're in a position where you're playing this game of chicken to see who wants to use the fuel the most, who saved the most potentially, and now I want to be the first of all these cars because now I realize all of you are on my same strategy. I've got to try and get the best track position here, and that's why we're seeing this madness 4 wide down the backstretch. Look at that. This is crazy while clutching it and trying to save fuel at the same time.
Well, we'll take an opportunity to step aside. Pit stops are next. Ray Alfala leading at Michigan International Speedway.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
I am the regular season coming to a close. And what happened left eyes wide open, with displays of dominance, long shot surprises, and tracks that turned veterans into rookies. I am still not done. In fact, I'm saving the best for last, and a playoff spot for anyone that wants it bad enough. I am NASCAR.
It doesn't matter where you're from, who you grew up rooting for, what you grew up watching, your home track, your favorite car, the series you've always wanted to race in. When you're ready to know what it's like, we're here, bringing you as close to the action as it gets with the ultimate sim racing experience. With a community of hundreds of thousands just like you. This is iRacing, and here, every day is race day.
And back live for the virtual Michigan International Speedway. Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by DoorDash, proud sponsor of 2311 Racing. You saw it there on iRacing Nonstop, a huge caution in turns 1 and 2 that throws a huge wrench into the strategy. Let's take a look at the replay, guys, and center in on that orange number 2 Toyota of Garrett Maines.
We saw all these cars jockey position, and that's what happens. When some are slowing up more than others, some are trying to go, you're going to get a massive difference in speed. That's exactly what happened to Garrett Maines, and therefore we had this wreck that a lot of them did not want to see, as all these cars now come down pit road, and this really changes things, Steve.
It does and it doesn't, right? This is probably the perfect lap for the one-stop guys. The question now becomes the two-stop guys are also going to come down pit road and get fresh tires. Now the decision just becomes, if you were going to stop twice, right, you still have an extra set of tires. Do you pit in the middle of these last 50 laps, or do you try to stretch it and make it the last 51 on fuel? I think it's going to be very clear right away who does what. We saw the pace difference between those that were pushing it and those that were riding.
You know, the drivers who were going for the one stop, so that lead group seemed to be upset at the timing of the yellow. They all seemed to want this race to go green, but to that point, all of those drivers who were on the two-stop strategy, right, those who we would have expected to cycle to the race lead, they are also all on pit road. So now they're all at the back. So this may not ruin the strategy for these cars. Second look on board, Steven Wilson, who was in the high side into turn number 1, guessed a couple of times, rode the brake, and somehow found a way through that one unscathed. So some drivers able to avoid the calamity, but you know, you got Ray Alfala, who is still towards the front. I don't think that this is catastrophic for the one-stoppers, and I don't know if I was on a two-stopper if I want to split a 50-lap race in half, right? You're going from, you know, 33-ish lap runs to closer to 24 to 25. I don't know if that would be enough of a tire advantage to split the second half of this race up, if indeed all these drivers who are pitting now can stretch it the 52 laps to go to the end.
I think we got a chance here to catch up with Garrett Maines, who's the 2-car involved in that wreck here. Hey, Garrett, it's Park Kligerman. I want to ask you, you know, with all the different strategies going on there, did you just not expect the 15 to slow up so much into 1?
Yeah, I'm kicking myself. All I had to do there was hit the brake a little harder. I just didn't expect the checkup to be, you know, so severe. Kind of screwed myself. Kills me. I felt like we were in a really good position there. I think the two-stop was going to, you know, backfire on them. We'd save plenty of fuel running their pace. Just stepped on my own strategy, that's for sure. So just sucks. Everybody put in a ton of work on this car this week, and I feel like I threw it away. But we'll see what we can do here. I think it's going to get messy, and we're going to have just enough laps to tear up a bunch of cars. So hopefully we'll get to pick up the scraps here and salvage a good finish. We'll see.
Well, appreciate the insight, bud. Thanks.
That sums it up pretty good from the perspective of the 2-car. And to that point, we talk about, can you stretch it the 50 laps to the end of the race? I think the bigger question is, do we go 50 laps uninterrupted to the end of this race? It'll be right on the money, though. Pace car in this time, 50 laps down and 50 laps to go in the Logitech G Challenge 100 at Michigan. Ray Alfala in control of the field. Green flag back in the air.
Relatively organized up front as the battle in the back is to get to the top line. You would think the bottom would be good for a couple laps on fresh tires, but I think everybody's afraid of being kind of hung out when the draft really gets picked up. So it looks like a battle for the second groove. Oh my goodness, a wreck at the front.
Leader. It's Alfala. The 51 spins down to the inside. A caution will come out, and that may do it for Ray Alfala's championship hopes in 2021. He was clear at the front of the field, but then they all started to draft up on him out of turn 2, and I believe he got a little touch from Dylan Duval. Did his best to save that car, but eventually it spun out, and that may do it from him. He was in a very good position. Let's take a second look with the iRacing replay, Parker, from high and above. He's got the advantage, but watch the draft that Duval gets here through the center and then to turn 2.
You mentioned he had a great restart, got a huge lead, and Duval just gets in the back of him. That unsets the 51 car off of turn 2. Around he goes. That's exactly what we see often, right, at Talladega or Daytona. As the leader, you get that great jump, and then you go, oh, wait a second. This isn't such a good thing to have that good of a jump because it gives a huge run to the cars behind you. Duval had that. He tried to time it and cut down below, but caught the back end of the 51 and spun around. Massively unfortunate after Ray did all that work, driving from outside the top 30 up to the lead, got the right caution, was in position to pull it off, and I'd have to say with the damage I saw on that 51 car, you were right to assess that maybe his chances tonight are over.
And I'm actually curious to see what kind of damage there was on the right side of the 41. I think as Ray was spinning around, it might have made some contact with the right side. We'll have to just see if his car is injured when we get back to green flag racing.
Might get a look here. Let's see as we go by the start finish line. It was just a touch to kind of the right rear quarter panel area, and it looks like for the most part, Dylan Duval has avoided any significant damage in that one. So we'll have to see if that thing does show signs of it on the damage. But speaking of which, Dylan Duval was right in the center of that one. Steve, you're dialed up with him on the radio.
Hey, Dylan, Steve Letarte and the guys up in the booth. Man, that was some close racing there off turn 2. Assess what it looked like from your seat.
Yeah, I just made a mistake and got into the back of Ray. Obviously, that's not what I'm trying to do in that situation. I was trying to get under him. Really unfortunate because I know he's in a must-win, kind of like me. And obviously, I don't want to be the guy that does that to him. It's just misjudgment on my part. It really sucks. I feel horrible about it.
Talk about that must-win here, the last opportunity at the regular season. It seems like everyone is aggressive. Even in a fuel savings mode, they're trying to be aggressive, trying to find their way to the front, knowing they need that track position.
Yeah, for sure. It's been an interesting race because I think it's been wild, but I feel like it's going to be even more wild now because I think this kind of takes a lot of the fuel play out of it. So I think you're going to see a lot of pack racing. It's really going to get crazy here. So you guys should definitely be in for a good show at least.
All right, last question. How about assess your car? Seemed like you made a little contact with the right side. You think your damage is okay?
Yeah, my spotter Ed was saying that he doesn't see any damage, so hopefully that's the case. Obviously, we want to try to win here, and I think any little bit of damage is going to be enough to keep you out of contention. So hopefully it's fine. Ed thinks that it's all right, so we'll have to see here when we go green.
All right, 48 to go, man. Good luck.
Thank you.
Another benefit of being in the sim is, Parker, guys don't have to reach down to you from the pit box and ask, hey, can you zoom in on our car and with a camera and see if we got damage? Your spotter can take basically any look you want in the sim and see if that thing is damaged. Of course, as we pace under the caution flag, if you're enjoying tonight's action on track and want to get in on some of the fun, now is the time to do so because with iRacing, every day is race day. For more information on how to start your sim racing career, visit iRacing.com to learn. If that was any indication, to the point that Garrett Maines made, we might tear up a lot of race cars in the second half. This thing could get sloppy.
I think that was a great premonition by Garrett there to say this could get kind of wild, and I just think so. I think you've got cars that were maybe on that are in position now where if anyone's still going to save, even though that's going to be close, I think they're going to be in a pretty good position fuel-wise. If there is anyone saving, there might be cars that think, all right, I just want to get to the lead of this thing and hope we get one of those cautions. So I think this is going to be very wild. And, what decision do you make on how hard do you go, how much do you use the tires, how much fuel do you use? All of that is in play right now as we're going to be coming to 46 to go when we get to green.
Let's go on board with the number 38 mission of Casey Kerwin. He will restart for the outside of row number 2 for this restart. It'll give us 47 laps to go as we go iRacing full throttle. And Matt Busa has driven his way to the lead, working lap number 58. A lot of the same, though, in terms of those onboard angles. You can tell drivers were lifting off and clutching, trying to save, but Matt Busa, big storyline, left-hand side of your screen. He is highlighted in blue, one of those drivers looking for a win. If Busa were to win, you can take a look at the right-hand side of your screen. He would be in because he has gained enough positions to get ahead of the 77 and the 4. So he entered this evening not with a win and outside of the points he would need. As it runs, Matt Busa could be a playoff driver at about 42 laps time. Still a lot to happen between now and then. Casey Kerwin in a very similar position, looking for a race win. Dylan Duvall there as well. 6. You take a look at your top 6, now 7 now as Boza gets back around, guys. But 4, your top 7 are drivers looking for a win. Pretty incredible that they're all in the mix as we take a look at the chaos that John Gorlinski's dealing with.
Right, and the interesting, as he makes a move there, that was Bob Bryant getting shoved up to the top side. So I saw Bob was up there around 20th. You know, if you're Luza, those two came in tied in points. So they both have a win. They were tied in points. He's going to be going after the 77 there, Bob Bryant. That's Ryan Luza who's looking for him. So this is going to be really intense. You know, if those two aren't able to make their way through the field, it could be a race within the race between those two just to make it in the playoffs with Busa up there leading. So this is wild as we look at more 3 wide throughout the field here. Oh, what a block!
On the apron.
As last week's winner, Graham Bolin, turned away and underneath Zach Nichols into the corner. They're 4, maybe 5 wide. In turn number 2, they got the racetrack to work with it, but I don't know if this is the most sustainable idea. Working lap number 61. Zelensky's in the middle. You got Ola. You got Davies there as well. Look at Keegan Leahy way on the high side on his own as they race through 3 and 4.
Oh, they got so tight there. Wow, they got there was like 2 or 3 cars. They got really loose coming off turn 4. This is intense racing right here. Ed's still clutching it. As we go on board Femi Ola, he clutched it down the one in the middle of all his pack.
Well, 3 wide. Who'd have thought?
Steve, I can honestly say that is something I have never done. I have never been in a pack 3 wide in the middle and clutched the car and still gained position on the cars around me.
I can assure the viewers at home that iRacing is this much fun, and it is nowhere near this easy. These guys make it look like they're just sitting still, but this is so difficult as the cars move around between the air and understanding where other cars are going. You talk about the points race, you know, you could lose 5 points, 8 points in the last lap without even an accident, as bunched up as this pack is.
Oh, Taylor Hurst into the fence. He overdrove it from 16th position. He's able to get out of the wall, but he's going to lose a bit of speed. Look out. Just about fenced Bob Bryant. They're still not clear. Bryant now is into the outside wall. Gorlinski spins into the fence. I think Alfala's off in the grass as well. And a caution at lap 63. We saw that one developing through the turn. They almost got away with it. And in the end, they just ran out of room. I think that is caution flag number 3 on the night.
And now it goes into, we talked about fuel all night long. Now it's about tire count. Remember, only 3 sets of tires to run this race, so when do you put your tires on? Parker and you know, the guys that were stretching their fuel have only used 1 set. The other drivers have used 2 sets. Can you dare put your last set of tires on with 37 laps to go?
I was just thinking that this puts those drivers in a really tricky position. I think, you know, obviously for the ones that only had stopped once, absolutely you put on a set here. But if you've stopped twice already, 37 to go as we go on board here of Taylor Hurst. Here he got into the wall. This is what causes it early on. So he gets in the wall, he starts to get it off, but he's real slow, and it's all going to condense right here off of turn 2. You see Bob Bryant there. And just so tight and just gets nailed right there. We got to see how much damage is. Oh, wow. That's why we got all the way into the wall. That was hard.
Not much left of that one. That was right on into the wall. And here we go, a decision. Decision on pit road is it looks like almost everybody is coming in. So remember, for the one-stop strategy cars, they've only been down pit road 1. So they're about to burn set number 2 of 3. But it looks like the entire field is pitting, Steve. And when you take into account the drivers who are on the 2-stop strategy, right? They pitted once under green. They pitted under the yellow at halfway. If they're using 4 again, this may be all they have for tires for the rest of the race.
And that puts knots in my stomach. We saw during the green flag cycle how much speed fresh tires have. We've seen the crazy racing. I would expect to see more yellows. So with 36 to go, I'd feel very uncomfortable if I didn't have a set of tires in the pits.
And it looks like the call is 4 for almost everybody. Zach Novak takes 2, but with everybody going for 4, that does it for those dozen cars who are on the 2-stop strategy. They are out of tires. Here's Ray Alfala's perspective, and the reason they got pinched up to the fence there, right, you might ask, well, why didn't Bob Bryant just give him more room? This is why. There were 4 wide underneath them. There goes Gorlinski into the fence. It was Ray Alfala who I saw in the grass. Look out. Didn't take anybody else out. That's why they all pushed up onto the fence, Parker. It's not that they didn't want to give Taylor Hurst room. You just can't really do that when you're 4 wide.
Yeah, it was tight. I think Gorlinski, was just forcing it up there as well. And I don't know if he quite knew that Taylor Hurst was coming back as Bob was on his outside. As you saw, those two got really close together, forcing Bob sort of into Taylor Hurst. So I think that's just one of those things where that corner sort of naturally forces you towards the wall. It gets very tight, especially for the cars on the bottom. And, they had a car that was there that wasn't most likely going to be there from when they were in the middle of the corner to where he slowed down so much he was there in the exit.
just looking through, I mean, your pole sitter, remember, was kind of leading that other strategy, Logan Clampett. I mean, he's permanently relegated back to 31st. So those cars who pitted with everybody else, they haven't been able to make up much time. They're all stuck back. But it appears that what these yellows have done, guys, has reset all the strategy, right? We really don't have the one-stop group and the two-stop group. Everybody's in the same boat at this point. The drivers who were going to go for the one-stop initially have an additional set of tires. That could be big in these last 35 laps, but at least for this moment in time, everybody is on the same tires, and everybody now has definitively enough fuel to the end of the race looking for a restart.
And I think that's only going to intensify, if possible, the crazy 2 and 3 wide racing we saw. Now that fuel is not an issue, maybe there's going to be a little bit of tire saving, but with 36 to go, 35 to go, Parker, I just don't believe you can concede the spot at this point.
No, you got to go. Right now it's about track position, right? And I think, no matter if you're on your last set, whatever, you've got to go for it, because in this, at this point, it's going to really become about track position, and then obviously things could get wild there. And if you have a chance to get ahead of one of those big packs, it could just allow you to actually have a car to finish this race.
Let's go on board with our Logitech onboard camera with Logan Clampett, who will take this restart from way back in 31st position. The green flag is back in the air, 34 laps to go. He ran out of options on the back straightaway there. Logan Clampett had a run, but there was nowhere to go. They are still 4 wide in front of him.
If 3 or 4 wide was your drinking word, you would be having quite the night tonight, because we have seen this continually throughout this entire race. This is awesome to watch. Oh,
that's not going to work.
Turn 2.
That's the 11. What a save by Malik Ray. That should have been a wreck. The 11 car was dead to rights at a turn 2. He was sideways, put the 33 into the fence, and somehow they held on. The virtual drones got a good look at the 4 wide again.
Look at some of the blocks real late. Love this sort of drone cam here, following the cars from behind. Great to see this sort of thing used here in the iRacing sim. Kind of camera we wouldn't get in real life. This is pretty awesome to watch, this sort of view, to see how these drivers make the moves that they do. You see the late blocks that happen there. Oh, look at that slot. That was so tight up there in front of Zelensky.
And I thought the leaders were going to try to stay organized and try to get away a little bit, but every time we take this view right here, it seems like there's still 2 and 3 5.
No.
Oh, there it is.
One
the
of McLaren cars is around.
It was Alan Bowes who got tagged, fishtailed for a moment, and then snapped up the hill. Caution number 4 comes just as they came to the line to take lap number 70. And my next point was going to be, I just don't think this can last. I mean, it's great to watch, maybe great for a green-white checkered, but you just can't do it for the entire final 50 laps of a race. And now that you took that little bit of saving out of it, these guys are just full bore, and you can see it. But through all of this, Michael Conti is your new race leader. He is already a playoff driver headed into this race, but he's looking for a second bit on the air. Let's watch again. Follow that 67 through the corner. He's going to get a touch as they come off of 4.
Yeah, and I don't really think this was his fault. 47 there just gets in the back of him and then just doesn't get off. You see one hit there, and that sets the car into a sort of a tail slapper, and he just couldn't hang on to it. Eventually goes around in front of the field, but it was those touches there that just really unsettled Allen and spun him around.
Just trying to count all the drivers involved in that one. About a half a dozen will end up with significant damage, and it slows things down again. Drivers to pit road this time: Wilson, Zelensky, Vincent, Doucette, Shearburn, Hurst, and others. You can see a majority of those drivers are coming in for repairs. Half of them didn't have a hood in that last glimpse over to the pit lane. So a lot of drivers this time, unscheduled service, they are coming down for repairs. Those are all drivers who will drop outside of the top 25 in the running order. Conti kind of being a spoiler through all of this, right? Entered this evening 5th in the playoff points. He's got to win. He's good. He's locked in. He is trying to prevent Casey Kerwin from going for a walk-off. Casey Kerwin entered tonight outside of the top 10 in a winning position. He's right there on the doorstep, Steve, in P2.
He is. He's right there in P2. He has an opportunity. As we see more and more accidents and more damaged cars, what that does is give the guys with a set of fresh tires in the pits a bigger advantage. And what I mean by that is if we do get a 15 or 18 lap run and the caution comes out, you know, with say 10, 15 cars damaged, now you could put on fresh tires and restart maybe just inside the top 20. I think that might leave yourself a little bit more option to use those tires. If we run green for a long time, I don't know, even with fresh tires, Parker, if you line up 35th, if there's enough room to go.
Right in the middle of all of that was Steven Wilson in the number 17 Castrol Ford Mustang. Parker had nowhere to go. You're dialed up with him.
Hey, Steven, we're seeing some wild racing. It's Parker Kligerman and the boys in the booth. What was there anything you could have done there to avoid that?
No, I don't think there was anything. I was just chilling through right on the top, and all of a sudden I'm hitting my look left button, and someone's perpendicular to me hitting my left rear. So it's just unfortunate. We spent the first 50 laps or so saving fuel, and I think we had a really fast car, but couldn't show it.
What were you seeing out there? We know fuel was a big topic in the first run, but at this point, obviously, fuel wasn't really maybe as big a concern. When everyone started going for it there, was it just now is it bound to car speed, or what really makes the difference, finding the right line?
Pretty much just finding the right line. Yeah, you know, the top line has the most cars. It's usually the fastest, but when they check up, cars will dart low all over the place. So we got put in the wrong line on the restart. I tried to go low, and somebody got pulled down in front of me and slowed me up. So just lost some spots there and put me in that position.
Got it. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
So he joins the list. Keep wrecking race cars. Maybe those with minor damage can try to steal something out of this one. But a real interesting picture towards the front of the field. Michael Conti trying to play spoiler. Casey Kerwin trying to get his first win of the year and lock himself into a playoff spot. He is on the cusp. Don't count out Matheson, Leahy, or Busa, the drivers inside of the top 5. Pace car down. This time it'll be 28 laps to go. Conti in control. A slow roll, though, for the number 8 Chevrolet. Still not on the gas. All the way to the exit of the restart box. We are back underway. He doesn't have a huge jump to turn 1. We'll see how that shakes out. Matheson thinks about it, tries to follow in line. Third place now belongs once more to Matt Busa. Behind them, 3 wide. It's Burrows on the inside. Kerwin the sucker hole in the middle as Leahy makes all the passes up top.
Front 4 pretty organized. You see them at the top of your screen in line. 3 wide behind them, and then really chaos behind them. 4, perhaps 5 wide at times.
And the sketchiest thing about this, Parker, I have to think, is if you're just 4 wide, then at least you know how many cars are next to you. But there's so much staggering. It goes from 4 to 3 to 5 to 2. I think the hardest part is just keeping track of what's going on around you.
You just got to go to the momentum is, right? When you're in these positions and these sorts of packs, you make your choice based on where you think is going to provide the momentum to allow you to advance forward. And then you follow, and sometimes you follow blindly the car in front of you, and that brings you right to where you don't want to be, and a lot of times it can lead you to the promised land of being able to make those passes. So it's really about, oh my gosh, Femi got real loose there off of turn 4. It's really about trusting the cars in front of you and finding someone that you want to be following through this pack that you know has sort of that positive momentum.
More four wide, off it into turns 1 and 2. Derek Justice's number 37 Chevrolet was in the middle. He'll squeak to the outside on Ryan Doucette. That's Brian Schoenberg down on the bottom, working with a little bit of damage. The one constant in all of this has been the top side was faster, but listening to Steven Wilson, it also sounds like it's not really the place you want to be trapped, because you have very limited options once you're on the fence. So try to balance that out. That's where the speed is, but don't lock yourself in to that position. As more towards the front of the field here, a battle for the lead. Busa going to go to the inside of Michael Conti in turn number 1. Busa looking for a race win and a hope to get to the playoffs, but the 8 car won't go down without a fight. It's all Conti off of 2 as he punches back.
This is going to be really tough to pull off by himself without help. As you see there, Masson starts to push Conti. That leaves Busa falling back. It's pretty impressive he's able to hold his own the way he is. They're in slot back into second. As Leahy's up top, maybe he'll get the draft off of Busa. So that was really impressive what Busa was able to pull off there. He's obviously got a very fast car.
You see Michael Conti off his rear bumper. Busa pulls to the bottom. He'll edge ahead on corner entry. Can he slide up and complete the pass, or will Conti cross him over and go back to his left side? He won't. He'll remain in line in second.
He's going to push him down the back straightaway. So right flat on the bumper, the 75 is Michael Conti. And don't look now, but Keegan Leahy is inside of the top 3. He is the second placed driver in the regular season standings, one of the most consistent, looking for a second win. Behind them, it seems every time we look at Ray Alfala, he is at minimum 3 wide. Here's a rare glimpse of him being only 2 wide into turn number 1. That's the 90 of Zach Novak on top of him. Remember, Alfala crashed leading this race, and he is scrapping and clawing his way back into the battle. Right now is scored in 11th position with the damaged number 51 Toyota. So quite the adversity for the driver of that 51 machine. The 4-time champ will not go down without a fight, Tim.
Small report on the 88, boys. Brad Davies' overheating issue with that race car. They had to come down and take some tape off. They put some tires on it, so they are good to go. Bob Bryan in the number 77. Radio communication from him saying they feel like they have a car that can drive to the front and win this thing. The only driver, Evan, they are concerned about with Ryan Luza out of the race is Chris Sherburne, and Chris Sherburne right now running ahead of them.
And remember, that's because Bob Bryant came into tonight tied with Ryan Luza for the 9th and 10th position in the points. They were only 1 point behind Jimmy Mullis as well, so that would be a noteworthy driver for Bob Bryant to keep an eye on as well. All of that fighting is for the last spot into the postseason. They get started in 2 weeks' time at Darlington. But Matt Busa leading this race ahead of Conti, Leahy. Remember, all the blue drivers looking to race their way in, possibly with a win. And now that we got through the first 5 laps of the restart, maybe this race has got an opportunity coming to 20 laps to go.
And as the team owner of the 77, I'm not sure if I just got good news or bad news from Tim there, but I know it was news, at least that he has a car he believes he can drive to the front. I don't know. I know Luza's out here, but if you're still worried about Sherburne, we're going to have to see how this shakes out. I'd love to see Bob obviously making the playoffs.
20 laps to go for the virtual Michigan International Speedway. The playoff grid is still to be decided. Matt Busa in front at the moment. You're watching the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
It doesn't matter where you're from, who you grew up rooting for, what you grew up watching, your home track, your favorite car, the series you've always wanted to race in. When you're ready to know what it's like, we're here, bringing you as close to the action as it gets with the ultimate sim racing experience. With a community of hundreds of thousands just like you. This is iRacing, and here, every day is race day.
Back live at Michigan, where coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Asus, the official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And by Logitech G and the Logitech G923, the official wheel and pedal of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. 17 laps left in the regular season here in 2021. Somebody dives way down to the apron. That was Garrett Lowe, who will come back up on track. He recovers that race car. He is fine. Also wanted to note as we stepped aside, Chris Shearburn lost his engine. Common denominator between he and Brad Davies, who was talking about overheated issues, is front end damage on both of those race cars. So Shearburn's hopes to getting back into the championship here in the regular season finale appear to be dashed with that move. But Matt Busa is leading this race as we bring you back into the booth. Alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by Steve Letarte, Parker Kligerman. Guys, it has been a wild night, and I have to feel like a race this crazy has got an incredible closing act in store for us. You're on board with P3 Casey Kerwin, and you're looking at Keegan Leahy. Bring it to Matt Busa.
This is the risk right here. You saw the 32 go low, look low, and lose momentum. And here comes Kerwin with the momentum to the bottom. Will he be able to slide back up in line? No. Leahy will fill the spot. He'll stay on his quarter panel. This should slow Kerwin down on corner exit.
These two racing side by side will hurt them, but I expect to see Leahy just like that. Oh, and he gets a push by Masson down the backstretch. Oh, 3 positions lost for Casey Kerwin, and once again, that is the risk. Go to the bottom, not complete the pass. You are going to fall back, and now Leahy goes around Busa on this side. I'm expecting to see this all the way to the finish, and now they're once again going by each other. This is awesome racing. It just, I don't even know if you want to be the leader in the last 2 laps. You could be not in an advantageous position. It might be best to be second or third in those last 2 laps to get the correct run and find yourself the leader just at the start-finish line.
Yeah, that's been the mentality at the plate tracks, right? Do you want to lead on the last lap, or do you want to be sitting second to maybe true tonight? Casey Kerwin, a 2-time race winner in this series. His last win came here at Michigan last year, knowing how to draft late in the race. So can he do it again? Live points on the right-hand side of your screen. Based on how it sits, Keegan Leahy in the lead could overtake the 23 for the #1 seed if he does indeed win this race and get a second win of the year, joining DeYoung as the only other multi-time winner here this year. You can see down to the bubble, no late drama as they run now. But as Matt Busa goes to the race lead, look at this. Now the 75 jumps up to 8th, and in the blink of an eye, Ryan Luza is below the cut line. There is nothing that Ryan Luza can do. He is wrecked out of this race. He is in 40th position. His fate is entirely in the hands of who wins the battle at the front of the field.
Side by side for second is definitely going to stall both of these cars out a little bit, as you could tell by the run of Matheson on board with the 52 right here. He'll run up top and give a push to Nichols. Out of the gas a little bit. As you pointed out, Parker, I think the tires do lose a little bit of grip, enough so that, you know, I don't know if you need to be out of the gas for handling or just for momentum, right? You don't want to drive in there until the tires slide.
Absolutely, and just to sort of add on to the point situation here for Ryan Luza, I saw him in one of the chats here say he's a big Keegan Leahy fan right now for obvious reasons. He does not want Busa winning this race. I was at Duval with a massive slide off turn 4. With Chris Shearburn having an engine blow just a couple laps ago, really that's his biggest issue right now is Busa going and winning this race. And so he is absolutely rooting for... Oh, man. They get together. Oh, no.
That was
Keep it together.
Novak who pushed up. He got into the 97 of Logan Clampett, who then bounced up and got into the 10 of Graham Bolin. So quite an accordion effect there in 1 and 2. Oh, the spinner! There he goes. It's the 29 car around. Zach Nichols, I should say, is the one involved. Caution just on the doorstep of 10 laps to go. And man, oh man, the pit decision, a late race restart due up. And at the time of the yellow, Keegan Leahy was still in the race lead. That is big in terms of how this one will shake out. We've seen a handful of incidents tonight, guys, happen in turn number 2. This one was a little bit further down the back straightaway, but I think got set up based on what happened off of the corner. Nichols was on the bottom. He was slow. The advantage was to Derek Justice on the outside, who was fast. Let's watch it in slow-mo.
He just tried to do one of those moves into a gap that wasn't quite there. We've seen some really tight maneuvers of people slotting back into that top lane as they have the momentum compared to the bottom, and that was one of those times where it just wasn't tight. It was just not clear.
So some drivers have a set of tires left, Steve. Inside of 10 laps to go, are they going to take them?
Absolutely. If I have a set left, I'm taking them. There's too many damaged cars at the back. I think you're going to start reasonably close to the front. If you have fresh tires, I think you have to put them on right here.
Watch Logan Clampett. Well, I thought Logan Clampett wasn't going to come down pit road because he had taken tires early in this race, but he's in as well. So some drivers may have saved 2, even though this was their 4th trip down pit road. It appears to be a unanimous decision to come into the pits. Leahy obviously going to go for the 4, but let's see if any drivers only have 2 left. And overshot the box there was Logan Clampett. You can see him there, the number 1 pit stall. To put it in reverse and back up just a little bit. The race off of the pit lane will not go in Keegan Leahy's favor. It is Jake Nichols. He goes from 17th position at the start-finish line. Obviously, his pit stall was prior to that. He came down pit road 2nd behind Leahy. Got the 4 tires in and out, and he will assume the race lead. Leahy dropping back to 3rd behind Graham Bolin, who is the only 2-tire taker I'm seeing right now.
This will be interesting. I'm not sure about that one. I like to, why not go for it? But I've actually been in this position in one of my few Pro Series races I ever did in iRacing when I was trying to make it to the eNASCAR level. And I took 2 tires late in the race back many years ago. And let's just say it was interesting. So I didn't quite wreck the whole field, but I thought I had a chance at doing it at one point.
I think it's also interesting to note, I was just looking at Graham Bolin's trip down to the pit lane. The 2 tires that he took, I believe, were, I'm going to double check, they were left side tires. So that means at some point he took rights only. So he only had lefts available to him there. I guess that's better than the alternative of just staying out and getting swallowed up. At least this gives you a fighting chance. But if he's taking lefts, that tells me that's because that's all he had left.
I hope he made some adjustments as well, because that could also have some very interesting handling effects if I'm taking left side tires. Steve, I don't know. What have you ever taken? Well, we must have taken left sides at one point.
I think the interesting thing is Graham's our lone 2-tire guy. Steve, you are dialed up with Graham Bolin on the radio right now.
All right, Graham, take us into the headset. What was the call for 2 tires? What you're thinking there?
Well, I only had 2 left side tires left. I didn't have any right side tires left, so that was the call, and hopefully it pans out okay.
All right, man. Well, good luck. There you have it, guys. We thought it might only be a situation of 2 tires left. You could almost hear it in his voice. That was my one and only. And Parker, 2 tires, left side only, 2007 Charlotte. It worked all the way to victory lane.
Never say never. He's got a fighting shot at this one. It wasn't a pun either that the 2 left side tires were all he had left. But he's locked in. He's locked in. He knows that he's got an uphill battle. He's got a little bit of clean air. If this gets sloppy, who knows?
I'll give you a 10 out of 10 on that one.
Thanks. I try sometimes. And I'm happy that I was right on the tire guess. Most of the time, I'm nowhere near knowing what's going on pit road. So happy that actually turned out to be true. Pace car going to get out of the way. Let's try this one more time. Could it be the final restart tonight with 7 laps to go at Michigan? Jake Nichols is in control. There's a huge checkup back in the 20s. And we're back underway, racing up to turn 1.
A lot of bump drafting already just down the straightaway into 1.
Look at how Falla, he's pinched right now behind Bolin, ahead of Duval. There's nowhere for him to go. Michael Conti making moves. You can see that yellow number 8 car down on the inside. He is making some passes. That run stalls out a little bit into turn number 3. And in the blink of an eye, Keegan Leahy will go back to the race lead. And you can see Bolin struggling on the 2 guys. He's getting swallowed up in turn 4.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough grip. The 2 left side tires. It ends up being a strategy call early in the race. Didn't have tires left when he needs it, and it's going to cost him right here as we go back towards the front, though. Still 2 and 3 wide as Conti at the bottom in that 8 car trying to make waves.
Dylan Duval letting the cars around him. Hey, we're like 4 or 5 wide, so let's try to get through this one. He just got cut off by Ashton Crowder down the middle of the back straightaways. So all of that give is gone. It's all take late in this race. And up front, here comes Jake Matheson. He'll go to the inside of Leahy, looking for the race lead. 5 laps to go at Michigan for Jake Matheson. Here comes Kerwin now in 3rd spot.
And he had a huge run, just nowhere to go with it. He was looking, he looked a little bit high, just couldn't take it anywhere. Had to just push Keegan Leahy there down in turn 1. They're side by side down the backstretch, 2 by 2.
Anybody's guess who's got the advantage here? Nichols back into the picture. Busa back on the bottom, but look out for Michael Conti. He has been so good on the inside. We are 3 wide for the race lead at Michigan. 4 laps to go. Leahy clears Matheson. Now what can Conti do working the bottom? Look at Kerwin to the inside. What a slice as he goes 3 wide to 2nd.
It was an awesome move. He had the momentum. Shot it down the bottom, gained about 2 positions there, put himself into 2nd and back in the high line with the momentum.
Now you're looking back off the rear bumper of the race leader. Where do? Do you block low, block high? He moves low. Kerwin moves high. The 38 will try to get to his right rear quarter panel.
Got his 1 block in there. Kerwin tried to respond, but in the end, that was a good corner for Keegan Leahy. They're 3 wide for 3rd as all of a sudden Zach Novak is back into the conversation. There's another one, though. Leahy blocks low. Kerwin goes to the outside. Does he keep it on the top of the 32? If he can keep a nose there, he'll have all that speed off the corner, and Leahy knows that. He shuts the door on him out of turn 2.
That was so tight, and I think the big problem for Leahy is that some of these runs are so big, you just can't throw a block. Oh, it's Kerwin gets to the wall.
Blocked him all the way to the fence, and you can see Casey Kerwin lost traction there as he tried to go high, put himself into the outside wall. Kerwin now slips to P4 with 2 laps to go. Leahy, an advantage of some 4 car lengths. I don't think it'll last. Matheson going to be the first driver to get there.
You don't want 4 car lengths, though, Parker. At this point, the run's going to be coming way faster. I don't know how Leahy can block.
Exactly. That's the problem. He can't block when they're that far back. If they're 4 car lengths back, that's going to create a huge run, especially if they form up and get a ton of momentum. I wouldn't even count Casey Kerwin out of this, even though he just touched the wall and fell back. With the runs we were seeing, he could still have a chance this if he can get, well, he might have a little damage there because he seems to be really slow off 4.
White flag in the air this time. 1 more lap to go from Michigan. Matheson closing in. Here comes Conti in 3rd. Nichols in 4th. Leahy again blocks to the inside, but Matheson wants to look high. The 32 shuts the door. Conti watches on. Matheson again gets blocked to the inside. Looking low. Oh, he takes out Leahy. Leahy gets turned. Matheson finished him. Here comes Busa to the inside. He moves Matheson. Matt Busa to the lead in turn 4. Kerwin to 2nd, 4 wide behind, but Matt Busa wins at Michigan. What an incredible walk-off win for Matt Busa, who entered tonight needing a race win. He was 18th in the standings. He needed a race win. He needed help. He is the 13th different winner in 14 rounds this year. And we'll await the official numbers because, again, he needed to gain on Luza. I think he did it enough with Ryan Luza finishing last in this race. Matt Busa, guys, I think just put himself into the playoffs with a last lap pass.
And I think the craziest thing about that was, I believe when he started that final lap, he was something like 5th place. But he had the huge run. He had the run, and he was able to take advantage of it. That was awesome.
He was 5th place, about 8 car lengths off. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. 5th to 1st on the last lap of the race. Not even talking about the 4-wide finish behind him, but Matt Busa is back in victory lane. Let's take a look, guys, at our Coca-Cola move of the race, and no doubt it's that final lap around. Here's his perspective.
Put himself to the outside here through 1 and 2. That was a perfect move. Now he has the run on Conti. You're going to see Leahy gets spun by Masson, and now he takes that massive amount of momentum down the bottom, all the way basically the apron, a little bit of touch, and just slides this car all the way up in front. And his best friend was that Kerwin and Masson started to get together off turn 4. They get 4 wide. Conti there. Basically, he was able to keep that momentum. They didn't get the chance to get back at him. What an awesome move. Set of moves over the last lap. Busa played it perfectly, and now he will actually get a chance to race for a championship by getting himself the playoffs that win. That's awesome.
Let's chat with tonight's race winner, his 2nd career win in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Matt Busa wins the Logitech G Challenge 100. Steve, you're with him.
Well, Matt, first of all, congratulations. An amazing finish, and you are playoff bound.
Oh, I still can't believe it, man. Going into this race, I mean, I knew there was a slim chance, but pack racing, the intensity of it, definitely needed a bit of luck in there. I just thought there was no way, and coming out of turn 4, I just kept telling my guys, like, there's no way. Like, what?
Well, take us into that last lap. We just rode on board with it. You took the white flag in the 5th position. A nice move around the top of 1 and 2 with momentum, but you still had to find your way past 3 cars. At what point down the backstretch or into 3 did you think you had a chance?
I'd say getting into turn 1. When I got on the outside of Jake Nichols there, my mode teammate, I knew the chances were fairly well because I expected the front 2 to make some contact going for that win. And the whole time, though, my oil temps were over 290. We were pushing some steam out there, but luckily the motor held on, and Keegan got spun there. I knew the only chance was to send it into turn 3. And with us winning your in format, like, I hate making contact. I'm definitely not that kind of racer. But that's what we're forced to do. We just got to send it in there, give it our all, hope we can get the win. Luckily, very slight contact was made. I appreciate Jake Matheson there, racing me pretty clean. And, yeah, pulled off the win.
Well, it was a win required entering today's race, and a win is what you pulled off, man. Congratulations. It was an exciting finish and great move, and congratulations on the big win and your berth in the playoffs.
Thank you. Got to give a quick shout-out to Mode Motorsports and Mode Media House. Kyle Long, good luck to him this season with the Kansas City Chiefs. And my teammate, Jake Nichols, everybody at Team Conti. Huge thanks to all of them, my spotters, Dustin Hall, Jason Brophy. Couldn't have done it without these guys.
Congratulations. There you have it, Evan.
Thank you.
What a win for Matt Busa, his first win in the series since Atlanta in the fall of 2018. Jacob Matheson is second. Tonight, Parker, you're with the driver of the 52.
Right, and Jake, I got to ask you about that move down the backstretch when Keegan Leahy threw the block. Were you trying to send a message? What was the intention there?
Man, I think that's just last lap racing really hard. I'm going to talk to you, Matt, for the race about it, obviously. But I haven't really seen the full replay yet, but I'll talk to him after. I think I know what I saw, but we'll talk to you about after the race. But man, I am just really pumped that we got the opportunity to be up here. You know what I mean? Like, this is a great turnaround for the last couple bad weeks we've had.
No doubt. And talk to me about just after that happened. Busa was coming that run. You tried to block him down low. Did you think you maybe could hold him off, or did he just come with too much steam?
Yeah, he had a huge run down the back, and I tried to block it last second. I was looking all around in my mirror trying to figure out where people were going, and he was there, and I realized that last second, and I'm kind of glad I actually backed out last second because we would have both been wrecked. So, yeah, he just had a big run, and he played his cards perfectly. He won the race, and just an overall really fun race between everybody up front. I mean, that was some of the best racing I've seen in this series in a long time.
No doubt. Great job, man. Thanks for the awesome show, and congrats on the second place finish.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
Well, that is second place finisher Jacob Matheson. And Parker, we'll give you the double duty tonight since you skipped out on us at Watkins Glen. You're trackside as well with Jake Nichols, who comes home in third.
No worries. I'm used to it these days. Jake, congrats on the third place finish. That was a wild last lap there. We saw Busa went around the outside of you into turn one. When he got there, did you think that you maybe would have had the momentum off of two?
Yeah, I'd started getting hot, and in the back of my mind, points was still important. You know, we've had a few races back and forth where we've had, you know, rough points nights, and then obviously the second at New Hampshire where we had an amazing one. So I was like, man, I know this thing's going to be a crazy finish out of turn 4, like super speedway-esque, where everybody's got to run and you're not lifting at that point. So I just needed to be in a spot where I wasn't going to get freight trained. And when he cleared us, I knew I could do that. And they made some contact up front, and it opened the window up completely for us to just set sail out of turn 4 and push Jake Matheson there to second and ourselves to third. But man, what a crazy race. We started 39th. I didn't really get much practice in a day. We were dealing with the tropical storm going through, and just watching, you know, all the tornado warnings and everything. And, you know, I was fearing I wasn't even going to be able to race tonight because of a power outage or something. And to come out of here with a third, I mean, that's pretty dang good. I'll take that any day of the week, especially with my guy Busa getting the win. 1 and 3 for mode. That's a huge night for us. So, man, I just can't believe it.
No doubt. Thanks, buddy. Congratulations on the top 3.
Thank you.
Well, a big thanks to our top 3 drivers for sticking around and chatting with us post-race. Let's take a look at your iRacing full race results after tonight's Logitech G Challenge 100 at Michigan. The big story is Matt Busa, who gets the race win and punches his ticket into the playoffs on the last corner, basically, in the last race of the regular season. Ahead of Jake Matheson and his teammate Jake Nichols in the number 3 spot. Michael Conti and Zach Novak finished in the top 5 with Casey Kerwin, Jimmy Mullis, Ray Alfala, Garrett Lowe, and Anthony Burrows. Steve are top 10.
Yeah, you look back a little farther. Nathan Lyon is back there. Ashton Crowder, a decent run in 13th. Garrett Maines recovered for a top 20 after being, I think, the first incident of the day. Bobby Zielinski was in an accident, as well as Bob Bryan at point. Just a lot of cars damaged, Parker.
Yeah, and as we get back here, there's a lot of cars. Taylor Hurst, we saw getting the wall. We've seen a lot of these cars back here getting incidents. Graham Bolin is involved in incidents. Alan Bowes, Keegan Leahy obviously spun out there on the last lap on the backstretch. And then we get into a bunch of cars who obviously were involved in many of those incidents, including Ryan Luza down there in last place, ending his playoff hopes.
Look top to bottom at your full race results, and just like that, the regular season is done, guys, and we take a big step forward. Next race is in 2 weeks' time at the virtual Darlington Raceway. I mean, that's daunting enough a task as is, but it will be the first race of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs here in 2021. The championship battle goes from a battle of 40 to a battle of 10, guys. And to close out this one and to look ahead, Parker, I'll jump back to you first on this one. What a night, and it's only getting started with a 4-race playoff coming up in 2 weeks.
No doubt. That was, as I think Jake Matheson said, it's one of the most insane races he's ever seen in NASCAR, and I have to echo those sentiments. That was absolutely awesome. That intensity, that type of race is what I expect to see throughout the playoffs. This is going to be an amazing 4 races. I can't wait to kick it off at Darlington.
Darlington is not the place I would want to go, Steve, if I'm a playoff driver thinking, all right, let's start this thing off calm, right? That race is going to be very different, obviously, than what we saw here tonight at Michigan, but it's another race that can be very chaotic, and you're going to have to be on your game to start these playoffs here at the Lady in Black.
Chaotic, but less dependent on others. That's what I love about Darlington is you get to work on your own equipment, make your car drive good, put a nice race together, pit at the right time. Some foundational things. You know, we see this pack racing, and it's exciting, and I love it, and the drivers do such a great job of racing clean. We saw some accidents, but I don't think it was anything malicious. It was just guys in the wrong spot at the wrong time. Darlington, I don't think a lot of pack racing. I think it's going to be the fastest guys going to have the best chance, but they have 2 weeks to do some practice, work on their setups. The playoffs are here.
For the few playoff guys that were locked in, practice probably started a couple of weeks ago. For somebody like Matt Busa, who just learned 5 minutes ago, he'll be racing for a championship. I'm guessing that prep starts tonight as he gets set for that playoff opener. But until next time, that is it for us here tonight from the virtual Michigan International Speedway. So on behalf of our entire team at iRacing and NASCAR and everybody behind the scenes for making tonight's broadcast possible, and of course for our broadcast team tonight, for Parker Klickerman, Steve Letarte, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you all for tuning in and congratulate Matt Busa, 13 winners in 2021. He is headed to the postseason. We'll see you next time on Tuesday, August the 31st for the 2021 playoff opener at Darlington. That race and here on the iRacing Sports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. Until next time, good night from Michigan, where Matt Busa walks it off and punches his ticket to the playoffs.